Alright, so today I have a banger of a video for you guys, as we will go over and explain the whole Divine Visionary Selection Exam arc. This arc is really insane, so be sure to stick till the end of the video to not miss anything. And before we go in, I have to warn you guys that the anime hasn't caught up to this point yet, at least at the time of recording. So if you are an anime-only fan, you might want to be careful. Anyway, be sure to leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe to the channel, and with that out the way, grab your favorite snacks and let's get right into it. At Easton Magic Academy, each dorm is under the supervision of a prefect. These 3 prefects are some of the most talented individuals at Easton. They all possess the skills necessary to become divine visionaries. Meanwhile, Mash and Lance are counting the gold coins they have collected. They find they have 7 gold coins. Lance comments that this is all they need for the selection exam. Meanwhile, Mash mentions that the exam is approaching. However, before that, he plans to go home and visit his father, and thinks back to the time that he told Rain Ames about wanting to go home. Rain is puzzled by this. He questions why Mash wants to go home, especially at a time like this, and wonders if he is serious. Despite remembering this, he still decides to go home nonetheless. In another place, Orter is eating with a man. Orter shares a story about a student without magic who wants to become a visionary. He mentions that Walberg is getting older, and his decision-making skills are being affected. Orter believes that those in power have the responsibility to stop disturbances before they escalate, and this role has now fallen to him. He makes it clear that the student cannot participate in the Divine Visionary Selection Exam. The man Orter was talking to is introduced as the Orca Prefect, Margaret Macaron. It seems like a serious issue, as Orter has come to see her. However, Margaret is aware that she doesn't just go along with Orter's views. The only thing that interests her is the thrill of the situation. Orter explains that the threat doesn't disappear just because Mash defeated the prefect Abel. Margaret acknowledges hearing about it and is surprised that someone with such ability appeared while she was away. She remarks that strength isn't measured by hoarding coins. When Orter points out that Mash achieved this without magic, Margaret is so surprised that she drops what she is eating. Orter offers to take care of the cleaning, allowing her to do what she wants. Margaret promptly sits at her grand piano and begins to play. The sound she produces is frightful and seems to envelop the entire area. She continues playing until she is content. Suddenly, she utters a word. Her companions in the room are frightened by this. In the next scene, the story shifts to Mash's house, where he has just arrived. Brad asks Mash how he is doing. Mash, obviously lying, replies that everything was easy. Mash then explains that he had been thinking and decided to visit. His father is overjoyed and expresses happiness that Mash is safe. Suddenly, someone speaks from the side, apologizing. It turns out Mash's friends have arrived. Regro is surprised to learn that Mash already has friends. He explains that he couldn't introduce Mash to the outside world and is amazed that the day has come. Then, Dot explains that their relationship with Mash is more complicated than just being friends. They are buds, and he claims to be the stronger one. Regro is astonished to hear that Mash already has a rival. Lemon expresses her happiness at meeting Mash's father. She trusts him to take care of her and declares herself as Mash's future wife. Regro is surprised, unable to believe that Mash already has a fiancée. Lemon clarifies that they haven't held hands yet, so they remain pure. They assure Regro not to worry because Mash is doing well in their school. Dot brings herbal tea as a souvenir, but Lance quickly interrupts, handing over something and claiming it's from him. It turns out to be merchandise. Regro, puzzled, asks whose merchandise it is, and Lance replies that it's his sister's. Regro wonders why he would receive such a thing. Mash explains to Regro that Lance hasn't learned yet that people have different priorities. Regro understands and watches the group, realizing they are having a good time. Regro and Finn observe them, commenting on how strange Mash's friends seem. Finn agrees, noting it seems difficult to be part of Mash's group. However, Regro, who wasn't able to let Mash out before, is now hopeful that these friendships will last forever. Finn assures him that it definitely will. Meanwhile, in the forest, Margaret and her subordinates are riding on their brooms. She questions how she could let the incident of Abel's defeat against Mash pass. As they fly, swords suddenly appear, targeting them. They manage to dodge and land safely. Upon landing, Margaret asks Rain if he is protecting Mash. Rain replies that he just happened to be there when he heard an ugly laugh. In response, Margaret just smiled. While all this is happening, Mash and his friends continue to enjoy themselves at his house. The story delves into Margaret Macaron's past. Several years ago, a competition was held among middle school students to discover talented magic users aged 13 to 15. In this competition, only one magic user succeeded alone against all other participants. Due to her overwhelming dominance, there were doubts about her victory. An investigation revealed a rule violation. The participant had lied about her age. She was only 9 years old at the time, and her name was Margaret Macaron, who would later become the future prefect of Orchidorm. The story returns to the confrontation between Margaret and Rain. Margaret has ambitious plans, not only to fight Mash, but also to challenge one of the school's divine visionaries. She flicks her hand, and a grand piano appears, which she begins to play. She casts the spell, Powerless Winter, and then a moment of silence follows. Rain is left wondering if something should have happened. Margaret explains that not all powerful magic users aspire to become divine visionaries, as it's just a title. She only seeks pure strength, while Rain aspires to the position. She wonders who among them would be stronger. Soon after, the two prepare and exchange their own magic. The clash of their powerful magics causes an explosion. Meanwhile, the hero of the story, Mash, is playing board games with his friends at his house. As they play, the board game seems to reveal their personal problems. Dot's problem is being overly cautious. Lemon's is love issues. Lance notices that the board games seem to predict their future, and when he tries it, his piece lands on a square indicating that his little sister brings home a boyfriend. This revelation is so shocking to Lance that he is flung onto Mash's wall. Finn also tries the board game, and his turn seems normal. However, when Mash tries, his piece lands on a square stating that it's discovered he can't use magic, so it's game over for him. Mash is shocked by this outcome. Everyone stares at the board game, and Dot starts laughing, trying to hide the pain he feels. Lemon was getting annoyed with the game, and Lance remains quiet. Lemon and Dot begin to argue while Finn stays silent, lost in thought. Finn remembers his brother Rain's words about how such days will continue. Rain had said that words only have meaning when paired with actions. If one can't act, it's the same as not voicing what one feels. Reflecting on this, Finn decides to help his friends move forward. The scene then shifts back to the fight between the two prefects. Margaret uses her magic to create shivering sounds against Rain. She also employs howling sounds, and suddenly, musical notes appear around Rain. These notes gradually multiply until he is completely surrounded by them. Margaret warns Rain that he shouldn't attack because the musical notes surrounding him would explode in response to his casting. She then questions Rain about why people crave stimulation from art, love, sports, drinking, drugs, and gambling, even though none of these are necessary for a normal life. She posits that the answer is simple because boredom signifies death. Margaret believes that living is about seeking excitement, but she finds Rain too easygoing and uninteresting, and he often interferes with other people's problems. To her, Rain is boring and cannot fulfill what she desires. She suggests that he should just be kind and step aside, as she wants to see Mash. Rain responds by describing Mash as brave and shameless. He recounts how Mash is brave enough to want to change the world's perspective. This statement creates a strange pressure in the area, and Margaret notices a shift in Rain's mood. Meanwhile, back at Easton Academy, Neri Sean is explaining to Walberg about Margaret's fame, comparing her to Rain. Both are widely recognized, but the key difference is that Margaret does not aspire to become a divine visionary, despite having the skills for it. Rain, on the other hand, is determined not to go home without accomplishing something significant there. Walberg shares that despite Rain's demeanor, he always manages to help others. Then Walberg inquires Neri's knowledge about marks. Neri believes that the number of lines increases in accordance with one's absolute magic power, which Walberg confirms as correct. He explains that Easton is a historic school dating back several centuries, where many double-liners have been seen, but very few triple-liners. Meanwhile, Margaret is in absolute shock, facing Rain. On the other side, Walberg continues, if 2 lines represent the recognition of a person's talent by magic, then those with 3 lines are seen as chosen by God. Out there, Margaret tears up with joy, uttering, "the summer bliss." Walberg then reveals that the youngest person to get 3 lines was Rain. Facing Margaret, Rain is shown to grow the 3rd line. He then promises to ensure that Mash, the brazen boy, would be helped to move forward as far as he could. In the next scene, the focus returns to the board game with Mash and his friends. It's Mash's turn, and he has to go back to the space he had previously landed on. This leaves Mash flabbergasted again. Dot comments that it's the 2nd time Mash has landed on that square, and Lemon cheers him on, while Lance notes that Mash can't seem to get past it. Finn is surprised to learn there are game overs in the game. Feeling the need for a break, Mash decides to step outside, leaving Dot and the others concerned about him. Dot suspects that Mash is acting okay, but feels hurt inside, and Finn agrees, believing that Mash is innocent in all of this. Lemon adds that if she were Mash, she might blame society for her troubles. They all wonder if Mash is truly okay. Meanwhile, Mash is shown running fast, eventually stopping in a secluded spot. Believing he's alone, he takes out a giant cream puff, intending to enjoy it by himself. However, he hears something nearby, interrupting his moment. The scene then switches back to the standoff between Rain and Margaret. Margaret thinks to herself that it's a godsend to see someone her age reach triple line status, and she is so very blessed to witness it. She analyzes that her howling sounds will create a chain explosion in response to chanting, and although Rain is a triple liner, he still needs to chant to use magic. She believes she has cornered him, having surrounded him with her magic. Rain suddenly asks Margaret if Orter has put her up to this, noting that Margaret usually isn't interested in school affairs. He suspects Orter might have informed her. Margaret plays dumb and asks what Rain is referring to. While this conversation is happening, Mash arrives and overhears Rain explaining to Margaret about Mash's inability to use magic. Rain reflects on the sadness of losing the right to use magic and the natural envy, regret, and anger towards society that might come with such a reality. However, he proudly states that Mash is different, as he challenges his own fate instead of succumbing to these feelings. Margaret and Mash then lock eyes with each other. Rain's speech, highlighting Mash's defiance of his fate, contrasts sharply with Margaret's underhanded tactics. She dismisses Rain's words as cute but unimportant to her. In the minds of Margaret's companions, she remains confident and composed, despite facing a triple-liner divine visionary like Rain. Margaret's approach to her role as a prefect is also revealed. Although she is not arrogant and distributes her coins throughout the dorm, indicating her disinterest in becoming a divine visionary, she still manages to collect 10 gold coins from the upperclassmen, the highest amount last year. Meanwhile, Margaret elaborates on her strategy, explaining that her howling sounds will trigger everything if Rain attempts to chant a counterspell. This puts Rain at a disadvantage, as the battle isn't just about the quantity of magic power one can produce, but also about skills and techniques, in which Margaret excels. In a moment of reflection, Margaret closes her eyes and imagines herself in a theater full of cheering people. She then conducts, and her two companions begin to play. She casts the sounds orchestra towards Rain, forcing him to cast a spell in response. The scene shifts to Neri, who asks about the distinction between triple liners and double liners. Walberg explains that 3 lines signify someone chosen by the gods. These individuals can unleash more robust power than a double liner. But there's more to it. They can also awaken the true form of their wand. This revelation leaves Nere puzzled, suggesting that there's a deeper level of understanding and ability associated with being a triple liner. Walberg adds that magic is often referred to as the blessing of the gods. This statement transitions the scene back to Rain, who is now in the midst of his confrontation with Margaret. In a swift motion, Rain casts a powerful deflector shield, effectively repelling Margaret's attacks. Margaret is taken aback, astonished by the strength of the magical energy Rain is releasing. Rain then manifests an extraordinary ability, transforming his wand into a spear. Meanwhile, Walberg explains that triple liners have the unique capability to invoke the power of a god from their wand. This transformation is vividly illustrated as Rain undergoes a brutal change, now wielding a spear instead of his wand. Margaret is stunned to witness Rain's transformation, realizing that his wand has become the Sword Cane, the divine visionary of war. In a decisive move, Rain declares checkmate and attacks with his spear, casting the black partisan towards Margaret. Margaret is stunned to witness this kind of black magic. Margaret quickly casts a spell called Sound Shield to block Rain's attack. Right after that, she grabs her team and they all retreat. Mash comes out from behind some bushes and thanks Rain for his help. Rain tells Mash he doesn't need to thank him and encourages him to do well in the upcoming selection exam. After the retreat, it's clear that Margaret has been hurt from Rain's attack. Her hand is covered in blood. One of her team members feels bad and says sorry, thinking that if they weren't there, Margaret could have won. But Margaret tells them it's okay. She says she likes to save her best moves for later. After the encounter, Mash and his friends head back to their homes, enjoying a week off from school. They all react differently to the thought of the upcoming exam. Finn is really nervous about it, showing his worry. On the other hand, Lance is very calm. He's motivated, especially because he wants to help Anna, his younger sister. Then there's Dot, who is so excited about the exam that he can't even sleep. Regro approaches Mash with a serious look, sharing that he knows Mash's secret about not having magic has been discovered. He apologizes to Mash, feeling guilty for not providing him a normal life. However, Mash, with a smile, tells Regro that he's actually happy. He explains that he's grateful for having a father who always looks out for him. Mash also appreciates the brief school life he experienced, the friends he made, and all the cream puffs he got to enjoy. The Divine Visionary Selection exam is explained that is a crucial process with 3 main paths. The first path usually requires candidates to collect 5 gold coins, but this year, because of the chaos caused by Innocent Zero's prison break, the requirement has been reduced to just 3 coins. The second path involves a candidate selection exam, where individuals are tested in various ways to see if they qualify for the next stage. The final path is the Divine Visionary Final exam, which is the last and most challenging step in the selection process. This exam determines who will ultimately earn the prestigious title of Divine Visionary. The students participating in the Divine Visionary Selection exam from different dorms are announced. Representing Lang Dorm are Moore Tomato, Dolb Marks, and LeBlanc Russell, each having earned 3 coins. From Orca Dorm, the candidates are Pontoris with 3 coins, Carpaccio Luoyang with 4 coins, and Margaret Macaron, who impressively earned 5 coins. Finally, for Adler Dorm, the participants are Max Land, Aoreo Morris, Dot Barrett, and Finn Ames, all with 3 coins each, Lance Crown with 5 coins, and Mash Burnedead, standing out with a remarkable total of 7 coins. Somewhere in a city, a child runs into Orter Model by accident and apologizes, but Orter doesn't react. He is lost in thought, staring blankly into the distance, seemingly preoccupied with deeper thoughts or concerns. Before Mash can enter the arena, Orter appears before him, presenting a philosophical viewpoint on humanity. Orter suggests that all humans are defined by a common standard, and by this definition, Mash's unique existence disrupts this system. He declares that Mash, due to his deviation from this norm, is not considered human in his eyes. Orter is adamant that as long as he is present, he will not allow the world to recognize or value Mash's existence. Mash, undeterred by Orter's challenging stance, responds with determination. He declares that he will face Orter with everything he's got, ready to prove his worth and challenge the norms that Orter upholds. Mash walks into the arena, and the crowd immediately recognizes him as the student who can't use magic. They start to boo, hiss, and yell at him to leave and return home. LeBlanc Russell, amidst the chaos, loudly questions the purpose of fighting for the Divine Visionary title when a non-magical student like Mash is allowed to compete. Dot and Finn stand up for Mash, trying to defend him from the negative reactions. Finn, concerned for Mash, recalls that if Mash doesn't pass the exam, he will face execution. With this in mind, he begins to encourage Mash, urging him to ignore the crowd's harsh words. However, before Finn can finish, Mash interrupts, expressing his desire to go home. As Mash steps into the arena, the exam commences with a survival match known as Dedavant's Haunt. The primary rule of this match is straightforward. The participants need to find a hidden key to escape. However, the challenge is intensified, as the key is located inside the swim bladder of a troll goosefish. To add to the complexity, the participants must also evade 3 Dedavants during the entire round. Once the rules are laid out, the match starts. All the student participants are transported to various random locations within a forest, which serves as the setting for this round. Each participant, now in the forest, must navigate the dangers, find the key, and survive the threats posed by the troll goosefish and the Dedavants. Right after the match begins, LeBlanc faces an immediate attack from a Dedavant. The commentator reveals a crucial detail about these Dedavants. They are completely immune to all magic, and any participant touched by one will be eliminated. This rule is quickly demonstrated when LeBlanc is touched by a Dedavant, resulting in his elimination from the match. The participants soon realize that the first round is not just a physical test, but also a strategic one. It's designed to see how they can use their magic to evade the Dedavants. When Max Land voices this understanding, the commentator confirms his assessment, acknowledging that the true test is in their evasion skills. In a surprising turn of events, Mash takes a bold approach. He sprints towards a Dedavant and, against all odds, punches it in the stomach, causing it to fall down. This action leaves the crowd in total shock, as they had believed the Dedavants to be invincible. After successfully knocking down the Dedavant, Mash declares his intention to find the key, showcasing his physical prowess and determination in the face of seemingly unbeatable odds. As soon as the Dedavant falls, it gets back up. The commentator explains that as an undead creature, it can instantly recover from any damage. Realizing this, Mash decides to run away from the Dedavant. While he is running, Max Land catches his attention, helping him escape from the Dedavant that is chasing after him. Max then shares a crucial piece of information. The Dedavants react to sound and have poor eyesight, which means they likely won't notice them if they're quiet. Mash feels grateful to Max for his help, despite the fact that the exam is meant to be completed solo. Max believes that they will all perform better if they work together and suggests that he and Mash form a team. Max then observes that the movements of the Dedervants are a key indicator of where the hidden key is located. He tries to explain his reasoning to Mash, but Mash momentarily passes out, overwhelmed by Max's use of complex language. Realizing this, Max simplifies his explanation, advising Mash to just follow the Dedervants. Finn is found in a defensive position, curled up in a ball, trying to hide from a nearby Dedervant. Meanwhile, Dot is actively running around, searching for the key. At the same time, something catches Lance's attention, drawing his focus. As for Mash and Max, they attempt to stealthily approach a Dedervant. However, Mash nearly trips, managing to save himself at the last moment by jamming his feet into the ground. This close call doesn't deter them, and they eventually discover the balloon that contains the key. Underneath the balloon, there is a bellows. Mash, thinking it will help them get the key, squeezes the bellows, assuming it will burst the balloon with air pressure. Contrary to Mash's expectations, the bellows turn out to be a horn. The sound of the horn alarms the Dedervant, prompting it to sprint towards Mash and Max. Mash and Max successfully escape the immediate danger and regroup to come up with a plan. Max reveals that his magic can change the size of objects and people. He notes that filling the balloon with air will be a challenge. Mash, thinking creatively, suggests they should try to break the balloon instead. Seizing a moment when the Dedervant is not nearby, Mash attempts to break the balloon. However, as soon as he touches it, it emits a loud noise, attracting the Dedervant back to their location. The pair then shifts their focus to breaking the bellows, hoping it might release the key. Unfortunately, even after breaking the bellows, neither air nor the key escapes from the balloon. Mash then comes up with another idea. Max starts to enlarge the balloon using his magic. Meanwhile, Mash begins to breakdance beneath the growing balloon. His movements are so fast and vigorous that they create a whirlwind. This whirlwind gets funneled into the balloon, causing it to burst and finally releasing the key. This success marks their acquisition of the first key in the exam, showcasing their ingenuity and teamwork in overcoming the challenges presented by the match. Lance successfully uses his ability, Graviole, to burst a balloon, earning himself a key. Dot also manages to explode his balloon. Meanwhile, Margaret and Finn each acquire their keys as well, although the way they do it is not shown. Mash and Max are thrilled to have obtained a key. Mash tries to hand the key to Max, crediting him for their success and insisting that Max should be the one to use it. However, Max admires Mash's character and insists that Mash should use the key instead. He informs Mash about the location of the exit and mentions a rumor that the time taken to complete the task might affect their ranking. Max also shares that Rain had told him about Mash, and initially he was skeptical about Mash being as good a person as Rain described. Now, having seen Mash's actions, Max understands and believes he can get another key on his own, using this opportunity to prove himself. Mash accepts the key, thanks Max, and heads for the door. Shortly after Mash leaves, an ominous development occurs. A cut appears on Max's forehead, and blood starts to spurt out. Max realizes that his premonition was correct, as Carpaccio Luoyang appears behind him. In response, Max draws his wand, ready to confront Carpaccio. Upon returning to the arena, Mash receives a towel and a drink as a gesture of care. He is warmly greeted by his friends Lance, Dot, and Finn. Lance expresses his surprise at Mash's successful return, especially considering Mash's lack of magical abilities. Mash acknowledges his success, but humbly credits the help he received. The commentator announces that only 9 candidates are allowed to advance to the next stage of the competition. Mash is revealed to be the 8th candidate to pass, leaving only one more spot available for the next round. This revelation adds tension to the atmosphere, highlighting the competitive nature of the event. Then, Mash witnesses Max exiting the gate. However, it's evident that Max has been defeated by Carpaccio, and as a result, is eliminated from the competition. The commentator notes the blood covering Max, raising concerns about the intensity of the competition. The commentator questions the need for such extreme measures and wonders if this outcome serves as a declaration of war. Carpaccio displays a dismissive attitude towards those he considers weak, claiming they are useless and implying that their treatment doesn't matter to him. This approach reveals his ruthless character and disdain for those he perceives as inferior. Mash confronts Carpaccio, warning him to stop his actions or face physical retaliation. Undeterred, Carpaccio approaches Mash and picks up his drink, intending to pour it over him as a sign of disrespect and to reinforce his view that weaklings should remain silent. However, Mash displays quick thinking and dexterity. He manages to catch the water in a cup and mixes it with a powder, creating a protein shake. He then casually mentions that it's 3 p.m., his preferred time for his special muscle drink. Mash counters Carpaccio's insults by pointing out that Carpaccio calls people weaklings, yet he himself has never encountered anyone stronger than himself. As the tension between Mash and Carpaccio escalates, the commentator intervenes, reminding them to reserve their fighting spirit for the examination. With this prompt, round 2 of the examination begins. The remaining examinees are divided into 3 teams. Margaret Macaron, Lance Crown, and Pontorus form the star team. Mortemoto, Carpaccio Luoyang, and Diorio Morris make up the diamond team. Lastly, Dot Barrett, Mash Burnedead, and Finn Ames are grouped into the hot team. To visually distinguish the teams, each is given robes of a different color, symbolizing their team identity. The rules for the second round, titled The Life Crystal, are then laid out. This round is a 3-way team battle. Each team member is equipped with a crystal that they must protect at all costs. The objective is to safeguard their own crystal while attempting to break the crystals of the opposing teams. As soon as the rules are explained, the stakes are clear. The first team to have all their crystals broken will be eliminated, while the remaining 2 teams advance to the next round. The tension mounts as the crystals, key to each team's survival, are distributed among the participants. However, an unexpected turn of events occurs right after Mash receives his crystal. He accidentally drops it, causing it to smash on the ground. Dot, following suit, also drops his crystal, remarking on their slippery nature. This double mishap sends Finn into a state of panic. Despite the initial setbacks, Mash and Dot reassure Finn, promising to protect him and his remaining crystal. The participants are then transported to the round 2 arena, each sent to a random location. This separation poses an immediate challenge, particularly for Mash and Dot, who quickly realize the importance of finding Finn to ensure the safety of their team's last crystal. Lance, observing the situation, comments on the likely difficult position Mash, Dot, and Finn find themselves in, given the loss of 2 crystals and their separation in the arena. Finn's determination to protect the crystal with his life is unwavering. However, as he focuses on this task, he suddenly hears someone nearby saying, "I'm sorry." Intrigued, he cautiously peeks around a corner and witnesses a surprising scene. Pontorus is seen groveling before Carpaccio, who has a knife lodged in his shoulder. Carpaccio nonchalantly removes the knife from his shoulder, emphasizing the belief that talent is a gift bestowed upon individuals at birth and not something easily distributed. He seems to be asserting the idea that one's fate and potential are predetermined from the moment they come into the world. The tense situation takes a grim turn when Pon suddenly screams, blood emerging from his chest and mouth. He delivers a cryptic message about the importance of living the life one was destined for. Finn recognizes the danger that Carpaccio poses and decides that he must keep his distance from him. In an attempt to avoid Carpaccio's attention, he conceals his presence by pretending to be an inanimate object. In his mind, he repeats the mantra, "I'm a wall," as if trying to convince himself of his invisibility. Closing his eyes briefly, Finn reopens them and looks to where Carpaccio had been standing, only to find an empty clearing. However, to his surprise, Carpaccio suddenly appears behind him, questioning Finn about what he's doing. In response, Finn, still in his wall persona, says, "Can't talk, I'm a wall." Carpaccio, seemingly amused, comments, "You seem like fun." He then proceeds to use his magic, causing Finn to call out for help. Fortunately, Mash is seen sprinting toward the scene, responding to Finn's distress call. As Finn pleads for someone to come to his rescue, Carpaccio recognizes him and calls out his name. This takes Finn by surprise, and he wonders how Carpaccio knows who he is. Carpaccio, in a condescending manner, refers to Finn as the continuing student who barely made the cutoff. He openly expresses his bewilderment about why Finn is even a student at Easton Academy, and questions if Finn's brother used his influence to get him into the Divine Visionary Selection exam. Carpaccio doesn't mince words, stating that he feels disgust when he encounters what he perceives as talentless trash, like Finn. Carpaccio demands that Finn surrender his crystal, arguing that it's inappropriate for Finn to be participating in the exam in the first place. Despite being intimidated by Carpaccio and considering him one of the scariest individuals he's ever encountered, Finn is resolute. He acknowledges Carpaccio's intimidating presence, but emphasizes that he must protect the crystal until the end, because Mash's future hinges on it. Blood spurts from Finn's chest, causing him to collapse to his knees in pain. Carpaccio wastes no time and retrieves a knife, questioning why someone so weak would dare to act with confidence. He taunts Finn, asserting that Finn should be fully aware of the vast difference in their strength. Carpaccio goes on to remind Finn of what he did to Pontorus, making it clear that he won't hesitate to resort to violence. With a menacing tone, Carpaccio demands that Finn hand over the crystal, and he emphasizes that he won't ask again. The situation becomes increasingly dire for Finn, as Carpaccio exerts his dominance. Meanwhile, Margaret Macaron is seen roaming the area, seemingly on the lookout for a potential opponent. She reflects on the 3 standout students participating in the exam. Margaret Macaron reflects on the standout students participating in the exam. Mash Burnedead, known for his inability to use magic, Lance Crown, the top-ranking student among the newcomers, and Carpaccio Luo Yang, who has maintained his position as the best among the continuing students. She speculates that Carpaccio might share her indifference toward becoming a divine visionary, and suggests that Orter Madl might have offered him some kind of deal. Margaret acknowledges Carpaccio's prodigious talent, emphasizing that he was chosen by a wand that's fit to be a national treasure, making him the most talented student at Easton. Carpaccio responds to Finn, expressing his confusion about Finn's actions, as he believes he will obtain the crystal regardless. Finn, determined to protect the crystal, decides to use a spell to gain an advantage over Carpaccio. He invokes the spell Dangerous, causing Carpaccio to look up, expecting something to happen. However, nothing occurs, and Finn takes this moment to make his move. He initiates the spell Changas, which sends Carpaccio back to the location where he confronted Pontorus, who has since disappeared. Finn seizes the opportunity to flee, attempting to create distance between himself and Carpaccio. As Finn runs, he suddenly experiences intense pain in his legs, and they begin to bleed. The pain forces him to the ground, and Carpaccio quickly catches up to him, demanding that he hand over the crystal. Finn refuses to hand over the crystal to Carpaccio, despite the injuries he sustained. Carpaccio, frustrated with Finn's determination, stabs himself in the stomach 3 times, causing Finn to take further damage. Finn reflects on the time he spent with Mash and acknowledges his own shortcomings, but asserts that he would never abandon a friend. He attempts to cast the spell Nalkos, but coughs up blood once again. Carpaccio, irritated by Finn's persistence, tells him that people who keep trying despite having no chance of success bother him the most. He raises the knife toward his neck, threatening to end Finn's efforts. However, before he can carry out his threat, Mash suddenly appears and slams Carpaccio into a wall. Mash expresses his gratitude to Finn, affirming that his efforts were not in vain, and thanks him for being there. It is revealed that 13 ancient wands, known as the Master Canes, are renowned for existing even in present times. These wands are unique as they select individuals who possess an inherent talent to control them. Upon choosing their wielders, the wands impart their blessings to them. Meanwhile, Mash forcefully pushes Carpaccio's head against a wall. As a result, Mash notices blood trickling down his own forehead, leading to his confusion. He questions what just occurred. Carpaccio, unfazed by the pain, reveals his inability to feel it. He then calls forth his goddess statue, beginning to explain the distinct nature of his wand. However, Mash abruptly interrupts him by delivering a forceful knee to Carpaccio's face. Despite Mash's aggressive knee strike, Carpaccio remains unaffected, while Mash feels a surge of pain. Carpaccio reveals a startling aspect of his magic. Any harm he receives is transferred to his opponent. Demonstrating this, Carpaccio deliberately stabs himself in the leg, resulting in a burst of blood from Mash's leg. He explains that his wand absorbs all pain he would normally experience. This unique ability has been active since the Master Cane chose him, meaning he has never experienced pain in his life. Meanwhile, Walberg observes the exam from a distance. He notes that Carpaccio's exceptional talent has been recognized by the country's oldest artifacts, the Master Canes. Impressed, Walberg reflects on the remarkable abilities of this year's first-year students. Carpaccio, longing to experience pain, dismisses Mash's ability to inflict it on him. He then deliberately stabs himself in the shoulder. In response, Mash punches Carpaccio in the face, only to find himself injured instead. Unfazed, he continues with a kick to Carpaccio's stomach, but this too has no effect on Carpaccio. Despite Mash's persistent attacks, Carpaccio remains unaffected. Finn, watching the one-sided battle, comments on the unusual nature of the fight. He observes that Carpaccio seems to be constantly on the offensive without actually attacking, making it barely a fight. Carpaccio then speaks dismissively of Mash's efforts, suggesting that it's futile for him to fight against his destined fate. He also belittles Finn, recalling his struggles in middle school, where Finn was always close to failing. Carpaccio criticizes Finn for his inability to protect his own crystal and his constant need for assistance during the exam, labeling him a disgrace. In response, Mash acknowledges Carpaccio's perspective, conceding that it might be wise to give up if one is incapable of accomplishing something. He emphasizes the importance of self-evaluation and understanding one's limitations. However, Mash also points out that while Finn's efforts might seem futile and pitiable from Carpaccio's viewpoint, there is a different side to consider. Finn, despite his fear, had the courage to confront someone far more powerful than himself. Mash firmly states that he won't tolerate anyone mocking his friend for showing such bravery. Following his declaration of support for Finn, Mash launches into a relentless onslaught of punches aimed at Carpaccio, trying to surpass the healing ability of Carpaccio's magic. Carpaccio initially dismisses this tactic, expecting more from Mash, and finding the approach rather disappointing. However, a surprising development catches Carpaccio off guard as he notices cracks forming on the face of his goddess statue. Carpaccio is visibly puzzled by this unexpected occurrence. It's a scenario he hadn't anticipated, as his statue had never shown signs of vulnerability before. Despite his disbelief, he observes that Mash continues his relentless assault without pause, punching with all his might. Acknowledging the unforeseen weakness in his goddess statue, Carpaccio admits to himself that he hadn't considered the possibility of his statue having a limit. This revelation seems to shake his confidence, as it has never happened to him before. As Mash's aggressive assault continues, he finally lands a significant hit on Carpaccio, causing him to fall to the ground. Standing over Carpaccio, Mash makes a bold statement, asserting that he is now 1,000,000 times stronger than Carpaccio. He then challenges Carpaccio with a question. Knowing his current strength, would he be willing to stand up against him with the same bravery that Finn showed in facing him earlier? Carpaccio, now facing Mash, observes the cracking face of his goddess statue. In this moment of introspection, he questions the nature of Mash's body, wondering about the source of his extraordinary strength. Amidst this contemplation, Carpaccio begins to laugh, indicating a shift in his demeanor. Behind Carpaccio, the goddess statue undergoes a transformation, its form changing. Carpaccio reveals to Mash that this is the first time his goddess statue has shown signs of damage. Intriguingly, he notes that the statue is moving on its own, suggesting a kind of autonomous response to the damage it has sustained. Carpaccio then explains that from this point forward, the goddess statue will become more defensive, adapting to the situation at hand. In a swift and unexpected move, Carpaccio's goddess statue starts to throw large syringes at Mash. Mash, demonstrating his agility, manages to dodge this attack. Seeing this, Carpaccio tries to hinder Mash by deliberately stabbing himself in the leg to inflict pain on Mash. He remarks that Mash's demise won't be quick, acknowledging Mash's strength and the significance of his existence in a world that seems like a mere mist to Carpaccio. While continuing to evade Carpaccio's attacks, Mash reveals his iron wand. This action piques Carpaccio's curiosity. Mash skillfully lengthens and shapes the wand with his bare hands, much to the audience's astonishment. He transforms the wand into the form of a tennis racket. Then, he uses the racket to fire projectiles at the statue's cracks, weakening it even further. He continues to fire projectiles at it, keeping up a rhythmic pattern. The audience observes a striking scene. Mash skillfully avoids the syringes launched by the statue, while simultaneously hitting the projectiles with his improvised tennis racket. The audience, closely observing the battle, notices that Mash is strategically targeting the cracked area of the goddess statue. They soon realize that Mash is effectively playing a rally with the statue, using his tennis racket to launch a continuous assault. This calculated approach showcases Mash's ability to exploit the weakness of the statue. Mash's relentless bombardment of the statue's vulnerable spot takes both the audience and Carpaccio by surprise. Ultimately, Mash's strategy pays off, and he successfully breaks Carpaccio's statue. Carpaccio, bewildered by the turn of events, wonders how Mash managed to achieve this feat. Seizing the moment, Mash addresses Carpaccio, questioning whether he truly desires to experience pain. Asserting his willingness to facilitate this, Mash raises his tennis racket, and in a decisive action, he strikes Carpaccio on the head with the racket, rendering Carpaccio unconscious and causing his head to bleed. Finn, witnessing this scene, feels that Mash's actions might have been a bit excessive. As he starts to apologize to Mash, he is interrupted by Mash's expression of gratitude. Mash acknowledges his own clumsiness and the trouble it often causes for others. However, he credits Finn for enabling him to continue being part of their group. This acknowledgement deeply touches Finn, leading him to tighten his grip on his crystal. Witnessing Mash's victory over Carpaccio, the spectators are left in a state of disbelief, grappling with the reality of what they have just seen. They express shock and amazement, questioning the legitimacy of the events. Carpaccio, renowned as a savant chosen by a master cane, was essentially used by Mash as a tennis wall, a concept that astounds them. The crowd erupts into exclamations, affirming that Mash has indeed defeated Carpaccio. Walberg, observing the outcome, declares it a total victory against the Master Cane user, Carpaccio. In the following scene, Carpaccio is seen lying on the ground, incapacitated and being observed by Mash. Carpaccio, struggling to breathe and unable to move, experiences a revelation. For the first time, he feels pain, a sensation foreign to him until now. With every heartbeat, pain courses through his body, leading him to question the true nature of this agonizing experience. The terror and severity of the pain leave him in a state of shock. Carpaccio's thoughts then turn to Finn. He reflects on how Finn endured the torment inflicted by him for the sake of others. Watching Finn sleeping, Carpaccio recalls Mash's words, challenging him to show the same bravery as Finn. This introspection leads Carpaccio to acknowledge the stark difference in strength and character between himself and Finn, realizing he was completely outmatched. In a different scene, Margaret finds himself facing a group comprising Iorio Morris and Moore Tomato. As the confrontation unfolds, Margaret listens intently to her surroundings, leading her opponents to wonder about her actions. Margaret says that she hears a re. She explains that both power and pitch are the same to her, and that in terms of solfege, their strength is a re, meaning that they are the second lowest level of power. She says that it is impossible for them to defeat her, so they should just give her their crystals. This assessment irritates Iorio and Moore, who emphasize the numerical advantage in their favor, a 2-on-1 situation. Despite their confidence, Margaret remains unfazed. They both fire their magic at her, casting the spells Wolves and Rocks, each creating a large beast. Moore says that he knows that Margaret is as powerful as the last Divine Visionary, but the two have gathered 3 gold coins each, meaning that they are top class and they can't lose a 2-on-1. Despite the apparent disadvantage, Margaret confidently employs her unique sound-based magic. Margaret casts the spell Sounds Re, a drop of golden sun, which easily tears through their attacks, heading towards the casters. Surprised by Margaret's capability to counter their attacks with just sound, Iorio and Moore attempt to mount a defense using their spells. However, their magic falters, leaving them struggling to comprehend how they are losing to a single student, especially when Margaret is seemingly using only a basic spell. As the battle progresses, Margaret's mastery over her sound magic becomes evident. She breaks through their defenses, sending Iorio and Moore flying with the sheer force of her attack. They both fall to the floor, dropping their crystals in the process. Margaret picks up and breaks both crystals. As she does so, she explains to her opponents the reason behind their defeat. Her pitch is Tai, indicating a much higher level of power compared to their combined Re. Margaret expected this outcome to be a clear demonstration of the gap in strength between herself and them. Following Margaret's decisive victory, as Iorio and Moore struggle to regain their footing, Margaret makes a swift exit from the scene. At this moment, the host announces that one team has been eliminated, signaling the conclusion of the exam. This revelation catches Dot off guard, as he realizes he didn't actively participate in the exam. In the next scene, the contestants return to the arena, where they are met with enthusiastic cheers from the audience. Dot joins in the celebration, playfully pretending to conduct an interview with Mash as the most valuable player, MVP. When asked about his wishes, Mash humorously states his desire for cream puffs. Dot, going along with the jest, announces that they have their answer and concludes their mock interview. However, the atmosphere abruptly shifts as the surroundings fall silent, piquing Mash's curiosity. Walberg then approaches Mash, solemnly informing him that the next challenge he faces will be his toughest trial yet. This announcement instills fear in the audience, who express that the real game is about to commence. They hint at the emergence of a formidable contender, the only person who could give Rain a run for his money, the last year. Meanwhile, Margaret appears behind Mash, and the final test is about to begin. Margaret and Mash stand facing each other. There's a brief moment of tension before Margaret breaks the silence. She expresses her eagerness for the next test and starts to leave. Mash suddenly inhales sharply, catching Finn's attention. Finn, curious, asks Mash what's wrong. Mash explains that he feels a warning from Mike, his nickname for his pectoral muscle. This revelation confuses Finn at first, but he soon recalls Mash's unique way of referring to his muscle and cautiously steps back. Meanwhile, in a booth with a view of the arena, Caldo watches the events unfold. He comments thoughtfully that Mash's impressive winning streak might be at risk if he has to face Margaret. He turns to Walberg, seeking his opinion, but Walberg remains silent. Caldo then reflects on the past, mentioning that Rain's achievement as a divine visionary the previous year was partly due to Margaret not participating in the exam. As the head of the Magic Talent Administration, Caldo feels a responsibility to scrutinize each candidate closely. He believes Margaret has the potential to be the new visionary, noting her exceptional abilities and strong presence in the competition. Caldo Gehenna reminisces about witnessing Margaret's performance in a tournament years ago. He starts to express his admiration for her skills, saying his second is truly, but gets interrupted by Walberg, who simply adds, "That is true." Caldo, amused by Walberg's rare agreement, laughs and then quickly apologizes. He jokingly asks Walberg if his agreement is a sign of normalcy, but Walberg stays silent. Caldo then reflects on Mash, who has been attracting a lot of attention. He admits to himself that he hasn't understood the reason behind Mash's popularity yet. In his thoughts, Caldo seems certain that Margaret is the more fitting candidate for the visionary title. He doubts that Mash, with his current abilities, can truly compete with someone as skilled as Margaret. In the waiting room, LeBlanc Russell is deep in thought about his previous encounter with Mash. He feels that Mash made him look foolish in the first round and is determined to get back at him. Approaching Margaret, LeBlanc comments on Mash's lack of magic and urges Margaret, as a magic user, to demonstrate her dominance. He even suggests feeding Mash a laxative to sabotage him. Margaret, however, has little patience for LeBlanc's tactics. In a swift and decisive action, she flicks her finger, sending LeBlanc crashing into the wall. She sternly warns him, stating that if he tries to interfere again, she would not hesitate to take drastic action. This warning extends to Orter Madel, who is standing nearby. Orter, understanding the severity of the situation, agrees to remain silent as long as Margaret accomplishes her goal. LeBlanc, now more observant, realizes the extent of Margaret's strength. He notes to himself that not even a divine visionary seems capable of making Margaret exert herself significantly. In a separate waiting room, Mash reflects on his past, sharing that he only started training because his father made him. He admits that the training was exhausting and something he initially despised. However, over time, his perspective shifted. Mash continued to train, and now he takes pride in his accomplishments. He explains his motivation simply. "So you want to know why I lift dumbbells? Because they're there." As Mash shares these thoughts, Dot starts playing the violin nearby, adding a musical backdrop to Mash's reflection. Finn, observing from the side, notes that Mash appears to be talking to himself, as no one seems to be actively listening to him. Amidst this, Lemon starts to mimic Mash's manner of speaking, but she shifts the focus to her affection for him. This sudden change in topic leads Finn to comment that the whole situation feels like a waste of time. He expresses a desire to go home, feeling out of place in the current scenario. As Lemon and Dot stand up and begin to dance, the room transforms into a lively, albeit slightly chaotic, space. An alarm clock interrupts the scene in the waiting room, signaling Mash to make another protein shake. He mentions that this is a crucial part of his training regimen. Caldo, unexpectedly present in the room, comments on Mash's routine. He expresses admiration for Mash's dedication, and even remarks wistfully that he wishes he could emulate Mash's commitment. Finn is taken aback by Caldo's sudden appearance, surprised that he had entered the room without being noticed. Mash, however, simply recognizes Caldo as the divine visionary who bullied me, indicating a past encounter between them. Curious, they inquire why Caldo is there. In response, Caldo explains that Mash has piqued his interest. Seizing the opportunity, Caldo proposes a game to Mash, noting that there is some time before the next round of the competition begins. However, Mash responds bluntly, declining the offer by stating, "No, I'm on break." Caldo elaborates on his position as the head of the Magic Talent Administration. He explains that his role involves scrutinizing everyone who joins the Bureau of Magic. He emphasizes the gravity of his influence by stating that if he disapproves of what he sees in a candidate, that person won't have the chance to become a divine visionary. Presenting this as a choice for Mash, Caldo subtly implies the potential consequences of refusal. Mash, understanding the stakes, agrees to play Caldo's game. He points out that a game is meaningless without a reward. In response, Caldo offers a significant prize. If he beats him, he'll grant Mash a pass on this test. This declaration astonishes Finn, highlighting the unexpected and high stakes of the challenge. Mash reacts coolly, simply commenting, "Sweet." He then inquires about the nature of the game they will play. Caldo proposes a seemingly simple game. You look, you lose. Mash accepts this challenge without hesitation, casually warming up his fingers as a sign of readiness. Upon agreeing to Caldo's challenge, a small circle materializes on the ground around Mash, setting the stage for their game. Caldo introduces a twist on the traditional "you look, you lose" game. He explains that when he points in a direction and counts down from 3, Mash must not look in that direction for the duration of the countdown. Additionally, Mash is restricted from stepping out of the circle. Finn, observing the setup, suspects that the game seems unusually advantageous for Mash. He anticipates that there must be some hidden catch to this seemingly simple challenge. Caldo outlines the rules further, stating that the game will consist of 3 rounds. If Mash successfully avoids looking in the indicated direction for all 3 rounds, he will be declared the winner. As the game commences, Caldo points upwards. However, in a surprising move, he launches an attack from below right after pointing. This unexpected tactic is designed to catch Mash off guard. Despite the suddenness of the attack, Mash skillfully dodges it by leaning to the side, demonstrating his quick reflexes and alertness. In the second round of their game, Caldo raises the difficulty. He points both to the right and left, simultaneously launching magical attacks from those directions at Mash. The aim is to make Mash look in the direction of the attack. However, Mash skillfully avoids this trap. He quickly glances to the sides without moving his head, and then punches both attacks away, keeping his head down to avoid breaking the rules of the game. Caldo, observing Mash's tactic, reacts with a mix of amusement and challenge. He draws his sword, which is enchanted with black flames. Caldo explains that this sword will burn anything it touches until it's destroyed, making it impossible for Mash to block the attacks as he did before. For the final round, Caldo increases the stakes even higher. He points left, right, and up, restricting Mash to only looking down. Caldo then charges towards Mash, unleashing a rapid series of sword swings. Despite the onslaught, Mash manages to dodge the attacks. However, in the last second of the game, Caldo cleverly forces Mash to duck under his sword, then quickly swings at Mash from below, testing Mash's agility and reflexes to their limits. Mash quickly reacts and digs his feet into the floor and leaps upwards, managing to keep his gaze fixed downwards throughout the maneuver. His agility and presence of mind are evident in this quick response. However, just as Mash lands, an unexpected distraction occurs. An owl appears out of nowhere and snatches one of Mash's cream puffs, catching him off guard. This sudden incident causes Mash to involuntarily look right, technically breaking the rules of the game. In the ensuing silence, Mash acknowledges his loss. But Caldo surprises him by declaring that the last round won't count and suggests they end the game in a draw. Mash appears confused by this unexpected turn of events. Caldo explains that considering everything, calling it a draw is only fair. He then subtly hints at Mash's potential future challenge, mentioning Macaron as a significant opponent for Mash at his current level. Caldo offers an apology for the interruption and leaves the room, leaving Mash to ponder the encounter. Mash reflects on the encounter, realizing that he might have faced serious trouble if Caldo hadn't hesitated during their game. He also notes that throughout the entire challenge, Caldo didn't chant a single spell, indicating the high level of Caldo's magical skill and control. As Caldo walks away from the game, he reflects on Mash's extraordinary behavior. He is astounded by Mash's willingness to block a sword with his forehead, a move that defies common sense and borders on recklessness. Caldo ponders deeply about what could drive Mash to such lengths, questioning what kind of motivation Mash has to become a divine visionary that would make him risk his life. Despite these concerns, Caldo can't help but smile as he considers Mash's potential as an ally. He acknowledges Mash's exceptional abilities and looks forward to the day Mash reaches his level, envisioning a future where they might collaborate. Meanwhile, the excitement builds as the commentator announces the start of the final round. It's a one-on-one battle with straightforward rules: knock out your opponent or make them yield. The first matchup revealed is between Mash and Margaret. Margaret acknowledges Mash's determination to win, but firmly states her intention not to let that happen. Finn, watching from the sidelines, is acutely aware of what's at stake for Mash. He knows that a loss would not just be a personal defeat for Mash, but would have dire consequences for him and his father. Walberg, observing the match, remarks on Margaret's exceptional talents, acknowledging her as a rare gem in Easton's history. He notes that for Mash, everything hinges on this crucial match. Margaret confronts Mash, suggesting that his sole purpose in life is to provide her with the thrill she seeks. Mash, unfazed by her statement, responds with a hint of humor, dismissing her comment as a funny joke. Before the match begins, Mash pauses to refuel, adhering to his workout routine. He reaches into his robes and retrieves a cream puff, emphasizing the importance of calories for his physical exertion. Observing this, Margaret decides to have a snack as well. She pulls out a shrimp accompanied by tartar sauce, preparing for a small feast before the match. Mash, noticing Margaret's generous use of sauce, questions whether she can even taste the shrimp with so much tartar sauce. Margaret dismisses his concern, confidently asserting that she is actually adding shrimp to her tartar sauce. She elaborates on her love for tartar sauce, playfully suggesting that the existence of shrimp serves primarily to enhance the sauce. This unusual perspective on food indicates Margaret's eccentric character. Mash, taking in Margaret's behavior and her unique view on shrimp and tartar sauce, mentally prepares for a challenging fight. He notes that Margaret's intense and unconventional demeanor is akin to that of a madman, signaling a tough opponent. Dot, watching this interaction, muses to himself about the correlation between madness and strength. He concludes that Margaret's apparent craziness might be an indicator of her formidable power. Caldo watches the impending fight between Mash and Margaret with keen interest. He thinks about Ortermadal's choice to select Margaret for this challenge. Caldo recognizes Orter's complete faith in Margaret's abilities. He notes that since Orter asked Margaret to take on Mash, there hasn't been any other attempt on Mash. This observation leads Caldo to believe that Margaret possesses the strength to easily overpower Mash. Once Mash and Margaret finish their snacks, the battle commences. Margaret takes out her wand, signaling the start of the fight. She immediately showcases her power by creating a large explosion. However, she doesn't direct the explosion at Mash. Instead, she sends it soaring into the sky, demonstrating her control and strength. Finn, witnessing the explosion, feels the immense power emanating from Margaret's magic. Lance, another observer, is also impressed by the display. He acknowledges the level of power required to become a divine visionary. He challenges Mash, encouraging him to surpass Margaret's display of strength. As the fight progresses, Mash charges towards Margaret. In response, Margaret casts the spell Nalkos. Finn and Dot, watching from a distance, recognize Nalkos as a basic magic spell. They expect Mash to handle it without much difficulty. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn when Mash attempts to deflect the spell. Contrary to Finn and Dot's expectations, Mash struggles against the spell's surprising heaviness. The force of the spell pushes him back, causing him to crash into the wall with such impact that it leaves a large crack. In a surprising twist, Mash suddenly disappears from the spot of the impact. He reappears behind Margaret, executing his own attack, Spine Magic, Hellfall. He leaps into the air and powerfully slams Margaret into the floor, showcasing his agility and strength. Dot, puzzled by Mash's ability to evade Margaret's attack, questions how it was possible. Finn explains that Mash used a technique called backdashing. He elaborates that Mash ran backward at a speed faster than the spell's pace, enabling him to avoid hitting the wall. Margaret demonstrates her resilience in the face of Mash's powerful attack. She cleverly uses a music note to cushion her fall, effectively nullifying the impact. Undeterred, she launches 2 attacks at Mash. However, Mash's agility comes into play as he successfully dodges these attacks and narrows the gap between them. In a swift counter, Margaret points her wand directly at Mash's head, signaling a critical moment in their fight. It is then revealed that Mash has been fighting while simultaneously trying to protect a cream puff concealed under his robes. This revelation surprises Margaret, who recognizes that their duel cannot be conducted fairly if Mash is preoccupied with protecting something. Margaret advises Mash to set the cream puff aside to enable a proper fight. This unexpected consideration for fairness prompts Mash to comment on Margaret's chivalrous nature, acknowledging a side of her that he hadn't anticipated. Lance, closely observing the duel between Mash and Margaret, notes that both fighters are still holding back. They are cautiously testing each other's capabilities, not yet unleashing their full power. This strategic approach indicates the respect each fighter has for the other's abilities. Caldo, watching the battle with an experienced eye, contemplates the situation. He recognizes the advantage Margaret holds with her second spell, acknowledging its potential to shift the battle. He also understands that either Mash or Margaret has the capability to end the fight quickly, should they choose to go all out. With no more distractions, Margaret prepares to fully engage in the battle. She invites Mash to enjoy the fight, signaling a shift to a more serious and intense phase of their duel. Mash, accepting the challenge, responds with a simple K, indicating his readiness for the escalated confrontation. Meanwhile, a dramatic scene unfolds elsewhere. 3 dragons are seen soaring through the sky, each carrying a significant figure. Among them is Selwar, a shadowed figure, and Innocent Zero. Innocent Zero speaks, addressing Mash Burnedead, that he is sorry he has kept him waiting. Mash faces off against Margaret, and both competitors and spectators are intensely focused on the duel. Suddenly, Margaret speaks, expressing hope that Mash will reveal his abilities. She casts Sounds FA, launching a cluster of musical notes to fly towards Mash. After seeing this, Mash attempts to punch the notes, however they pass right through his body. This results in a loud noise that causes Mash's eardrums to explode, and blood starts to come out of his ears. Margaret comments that Mash must have believed such a trick would work against her attacks, emphasizing that a punch is insufficient to counter her spells. Mash is left silenced, and after a while, he asks Margaret to repeat what she said because he has become deaf from her earlier attack. Margaret says that Mash is poorly matched against her and casts Sounds FA again. Mash puts his arms up in an attempt to block the attack. However, he is launched backwards by the force. Spectators believe Margaret's magic is overwhelmingly powerful. Mash says that it is not possible to block the attack and realizes that the pain from Margaret's attack runs deep within him. Margaret comments that she should have expected to be disappointed. Still, it is sad as his performance is a letdown. She adds that Mash is not the tartar sauce she was looking for in her life. Following this, Margaret casts Sound Surround Orchestra, and numerous speakers appear surrounding Mash. He feels the pressure mounting, and Margaret instructs him to prepare for the finale. Mash is bombarded with powerful sound magic from the surrounding speakers. This worries his friends, while Caldo simply observes, watching the smoke from the battle. Spectators comment that Mash truly has no match in this one-sided battle, highlighting Margaret's genius. Orter continues to stare at the unfolding events, while Caldo analyzes the situation. He believes that Margaret didn't need to exert herself fully to win. However, Margaret is suddenly shocked when the smoke from the fight clears, revealing that Mash has vanished. This unexpected turn of events leaves the audience puzzled. Suddenly, someone pulls on Margaret's feet, and in an instant, her entire body is buried in the ground. The audience is once again left wondering how Margaret ended up buried like this. Something begins to move under the ground, and before long, Mash emerges from beneath the earth. He dusts himself off, while Margaret remains buried. Margaret is surprised that Mash found a way to avoid her vibrations. The spectators are now loudly asking how he managed to do it. Finn reveals that he witnessed everything that transpired. He explains that before Margaret's spell struck Mash, he had dug a hole. The sound waves from Margaret's attack were reverberating, but Mash realized that the sound diminished or weakened when it encountered an obstacle. So, Mash made the decision to dig into the ground and use it as a sound damper. Mash's ability to dig and move underground must have allowed him to travel faster than the speed of sound. This realization is somewhat terrifying to those observing the battle. After dusting himself off, Mash takes a stance and uses Quadriceps' magic guillotine kick. The audience can't believe what they are witnessing, and Margaret's eyes widen in response to his attack. In the end, Mash lands a powerful kick on Margaret's face, sending her flying. The audience is left in shock, with many expressing their disbelief at what they've just witnessed. The host shouts in amazement, announcing that Mash has knocked down Margaret with just one attack. Mash then leaps on top of Margaret. The audience reacts strongly to this turn of events, questioning whether such actions are acceptable in a magic school. Mash tightens his fists and unleashes a barrage of punches on Margaret. He doesn't stop, and it appears as if a storm of punches is raining down on her. The audience begins to shout, expressing concerns that Mash might be going too far. Meanwhile, Caldo explains that Mash is instinctively aware of just how formidable Margaret truly is, which may explain his intense and unrelenting assault. While Mash was delivering punches to Margaret, she suddenly speaks, surprising Mash and making him step back. Margaret declares that this is what she was looking for and that she will now show her true capabilities. This revelation astonishes the audience, and both Mash and Caldo simply watch, uncertain of what will happen next. Margaret then rises to her feet and casts a spell called Sounds Metamorphosis. This action triggers an immense surge of magic emanating from her, visibly showcasing her power. The sheer magnitude of magic released by this spell is significant, suggesting a major shift in the dynamics of the fight. Lance, observing the unfolding events, recognizes the nature of the spell. He understands it as a powerful magic that unleashes a person's magical energy. This recognition implies that Margaret is now prepared to engage in the battle with her full strength. At the Bureau of Magic, Rio Grants is wondering about Mash's current situation. Suddenly, Neri Sean rushes into the room with urgent news. Innocent Zero is on the move. Ryo initially thinks it's one of Innocent Zero's leaders causing the trouble. He instructs Neri to alert security immediately and mentions that Orter and Caldo might need to stall for time. But Neri clarifies that it's Innocent Zero themselves involved, prompting a worried reaction from Ryo. Meanwhile, at the battle, Margaret casts Sound Metamorphose. This spell releases a massive amount of magical energy from her body. She starts to hunch over and screams, undergoing a physical transformation. This spectacle catches the attention of everyone present. A spectator in the crowd remarks that they have never experienced such intense magical power. During this moment, a large cloud of black energy bursts forth from Margaret. After the cloud of black energy vanishes, Margaret is revealed, but she appears noticeably different. She is now much smaller and has medium-length hair. She comments on the transformation she has undergone, suggesting that Mash's actions have forced her to change. Margaret also mentions that this younger form grants her full access to her true magical powers. To showcase her enhanced abilities, Margaret swiftly moves next to Mash. She snaps her fingers and blows into his ear, a seemingly simple action that has a profound effect. This causes Mash's body to tremble violently, and he falls to the floor, overwhelmed by the sudden assault. The crowd watches this display of speed and power with astonishment. They observe how Margaret was able to move almost instantaneously, a feat that demonstrates her increased agility and magical prowess. Additionally, the crowd speculates that Mash's ears might be a weak point for him, given his reaction to Margaret's attack. Margaret takes a moment to explain the effects of her magic power release. She begins to tell the audience that it allows her to use a wider range of spells, but before she can finish her sentence, Mash interrupts her. He quickly gets up and aims a punch at Margaret, but she vanishes from his sight. The crowd is initially confused by her sudden disappearance. Then, Margaret reveals her new position, sitting atop the Colosseum's wall, high above everyone. She completes the thought that Mash interrupted, stating that she has become sound itself. Demonstrating this, she swiftly appears in front of Mash and delivers a kick to his chest. Mash, surprised by her speed and agility, wonders aloud if Margaret is also a muscle type like himself. Margaret dismisses this idea, clarifying that she is not. She then showcases her incredible speed once more by rapidly circling around Mash, emphasizing her control and mastery over her sound-based abilities. Caldo, watching the battle closely, analyzes the situation. He notes that Margaret's magic enables her to move at the speed of sound. For Mash to effectively counter her, he would need to surpass the sonic barrier, a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Margaret capitalizes on her advantage, launching a series of rapid attacks against Mash. Her incredible speed overwhelms him, leaving Finn and Dot doubtful of Mash's chances of victory. They reason that by the time Mash hears Margaret's finger snap, signaling her attack, he's already been hit, putting him at a significant disadvantage. In a swift move, Margaret snaps her fingers again, aiming another attack at Mash. However, when she positions herself above him for a follow-up strike, she discovers that Mash is no longer there. Caldo provides insight into Mash's strategy to counter Margaret's sound-based attacks. He explains that sound travels at different speeds through different mediums, faster through liquids than gases, and even faster through solids. Mash cleverly utilized this property of sound by touching the wall. This allowed him to sense Margaret's attacks a fraction of a second before they happened, giving him just enough time to react. Caldo acknowledges that for Mash to execute such a tactic successfully, he would need reflexes that are exceptionally quick, almost beyond human capability. As the battle continues, Margaret prepares to snap her fingers for another attack. However, she is taken by surprise when she discovers that her fingers are covered in tartar sauce. This unexpected hindrance prevents her from snapping her fingers effectively. Seizing the opportunity, Mash quickly charges at Margaret. He delivers a powerful clothesline move, forcefully bringing her down to the ground. Witnessing Mash's forceful takedown of Margaret, Dot queries, "Do you think, does Mash have him?" Lance responds, noting that while Mash's move was effective, the battle is far from decided. He privately considers the fact that Margaret still has her powerful second spell at her disposal, which could significantly escalate the challenge for Mash. Margaret, rising from the ground after Mash's assault, acknowledges his strength as an adversary. She then casts Sound's second, Death Gong. With this spell, a large bell materializes above the two fighters. Mash, puzzled, asks about the bell. Margaret explains that the bell's sound can incapacitate anyone within its hearing range without fail. She reveals that in 1 minute the bell will ring, affecting an area with a 2-kilometer radius. Additionally, Margaret informs Mash that the only way to prevent the bell from ringing is to take her wand. She reminds him of her ability to move at the speed of sound, posing a challenge for Mash to capture her and seize the wand within the minute. If he fails to do so, he will face defeat. Finn expresses doubt about Mash's ability to catch Margaret, pointing out that while Mash is fast, he isn't that fast. Dot agrees, considering it impossible for Mash to succeed in capturing her. Lance, analyzing the situation, notes that their confinement to the arena is Mash's only advantage. He realizes internally that Mash won't be able to catch Margaret in the same way he did before, if she is actively evading him. As the challenge begins, Margaret declares, "Let us begin," and starts moving around Mash at an extraordinary speed. Mash makes several attempts to grab her, but Margaret effortlessly dodges each time. With each failed attempt by Mash, Margaret continues to taunt him, declaring the futility of his efforts, and starts a countdown, with only 30 seconds remaining. As the countdown progresses, and with only 10 seconds left, Mash takes a decisive action. He forcefully jams his fingers into the ground, tearing it up, which effectively corners Margaret, limiting her ability to evade any further. As Mash prepares to confront Margaret, she quickly assesses her options, thinking, "My two choices are right or left." Just as she's about to make a decision, Mash suddenly moves to the right. Margaret realizes that Mash might have anticipated her moves, guessing instead of relying solely on reflexes. He seemed to be preempting her direction to catch her off guard. However, as Margaret starts moving to the left in response, Mash unexpectedly shifts his direction to the left as well. This maneuver catches Margaret by surprise. Tom Knowles, a spectator in the audience, keenly observes Mash's tactic. He notes that Mash executed a body feint, a fundamental technique used in various sports. He explains that Mash cleverly maneuvered his torso in one direction to capture Margaret's attention, while simultaneously shifting his body in the opposite direction. This strategy effectively deceived Margaret, demonstrating Mash's skillful application of basic sports tactics in combat. Margaret, confident in the distance she has created between herself and Mash, believes she is out of his reach. However, Mash, in a display of exceptional agility and reach, stretches out to his maximum, managing to catch Margaret with just his pinky finger. Once he has a grip on her, he forcefully slams her to the ground and seizes her wand, snapping it in half. This action causes the looming death gong to vanish. The crowd, witnessing this incredible feat, bursts into ecstatic cheers, proclaiming Mash as being one step closer to achieving the title of Visionary. Lying on the ground, Margaret, despite her defeat, laughs and expresses her admiration for Mash's skills, particularly impressed that he accomplished all this without using magic. She openly accepts her defeat. However, the moment of victory is interrupted as the sky above them starts to crack, revealing a massive claw. This ominous sign is followed by the appearance of 3 dragons, each carrying members of Innocent Zero. The leader of Innocent Zero makes a dramatic entrance, greeting everyone present, and shifts the atmosphere from one of celebration to tension and uncertainty. Innocent Zero enters the scene with a commanding presence. He pauses and raises his finger, causing time itself to halt. The world around them freezes, creating an eerie stillness. Innocent Zero then descends into the Colosseum, moving towards Mash with a focused intention. As he approaches Mash, Innocent Zero's expression softens. He gently touches Mash's face, revealing a mix of emotions. He expresses his surprise and relief at finding Mash alive, referring to him as his beautiful, dear, sweet son. Innocent Zero's words convey a deep, complex connection to Mash, hinting at a past filled with both despair and affection. Innocent Zero then reveals his plan to absorb Mash, believing that this act will make him complete. It's a moment charged with anticipation and underlying threats. However, this intense moment is interrupted by Walberg's sudden appearance. Walberg stands firmly, his voice resonating with authority and determination. He confronts Innocent Zero, declaring that he will not allow Mash to be taken. The unnamed Innocent Zero member observes Walberg's reaction, or rather the lack of it, to the dark magic that has halted time. He is taken aback by Walberg's unwavering composure in the face of such powerful magic. Despite this, the member remains confident, believing they are ready to confront Walberg. As these thoughts swirl in his mind, a vivid image emerges, a large axe cutting through his body. This violent and startling vision reflects the intense, dangerous nature of the situation they are in. Walberg, in a dramatic gesture, removes his hat and glasses. His demeanor is fierce, his words sharp and challenging. He confronts the unnamed Innocent Zero member directly, calling him an insignificant speck and warning him to back off if he is frightened. The unnamed Innocent Zero member's reaction to Walberg's confrontation is one of fear. He visibly shakes, overwhelmed by Walberg's intensity and the gravity of the situation. However, Innocent Zero steps in to diffuse the tension. He addresses Walberg with a calm, almost playful tone, asking him not to be so harsh with his allies. Innocent Zero's words are tinged with a hint of emotion, as he mentions that such harshness would make him sad, showing a different side of his character. Walberg, undeterred by Innocent Zero's demeanor, directly questions his ultimate goal. Innocent Zero responds with clarity and conviction, revealing his aspiration to become the perfect human, undying, eternally beautiful, and all-powerful. This declaration unveils his deep-rooted desire for perfection and power. Walberg dismisses these goals as banal, ordinary, and unimpressive. He probes deeper, questioning whether Innocent Zero would go to the extent of sacrificing others to achieve his aims. This question highlights the ethical implications of Innocent Zero's ambitions. In response, Innocent Zero appears unbothered by the moral dilemma posed by Walberg. He expresses confusion as to why sacrificing others for his goal would be problematic, indicating a lack of empathy or understanding of the value of other lives. Innocent Zero asserts his belief that his family, including Mash Burnedead, exists solely for his benefit. He claims ownership over Mash, declaring him as his own and expressing his intention to take him home. Walberg, in response, finds humor in the situation, perhaps in the audacity of Innocent Zero's claim. He laughs and acknowledges that their paths are inherently at odds. Walberg then speaks of Mash's potential to be a beacon of hope for the world, setting a stark contrast to Innocent Zero's vision. He positions himself as a protector, challenging Innocent Zero by stating that he must defeat Walberg to get to Mash. As he speaks, 2 extra lines appear on his face, signaling a change or an increase in power. Simultaneously, his wand undergoes a transformation, indicating his readiness for the impending battle. Innocent Zero, recognizing the escalation, remarks that it has been decades since they last crossed wands, indicating a long and complex history between the two. As he speaks, he too exhibits 2 extra lines on his face, mirroring Walberg's transformation and hinting at his own increase in power or a shift in his state. The tension peaks as both summon powerful entities. Innocent Zero calls upon Kronos, the god of time, while Walberg summons Uranus, the god of sky. Innocent Zero intensifies the battle by casting another spell that summons a group of menacing, dark, one-eyed humanoid creatures. These creatures, with their singular eyes and daunting presence, add a new layer of threat to the situation. Innocent Zero declares his intention to harm everyone except Mash, revealing his focused obsession on Mash and his disregard for the safety of others. Walberg, responding to this escalating threat, unleashes his own magical power. This decisive action shatters the spell Innocent Zero had used to stop time. The release of Walberg's power is a turning point, freeing Mash, Lance, Margaret, Caldo, and Dot from their temporal stasis. Walberg, understanding the urgency of the situation, tells them he will explain more later and urges them to defend the other students, highlighting his role as a leader and protector. Lance and Dot, finding themselves in close proximity, immediately engage in battle against some of the dark creatures. Their actions demonstrate their readiness and willingness to confront danger. Caldo, contemplating aiding Walberg, is swiftly pulled into the fray as one of the creatures attacks him. In the heat of battle, Caldo realizes the formidable strength of these creatures, noting that each is as powerful as a double-liner. This realization underscores the severity of the threat they face, as the creatures are not only numerous, but also individually powerful, making them very challenging opponents. Innocent Zero observes the limited number of allies Walberg has chosen to rely on in the battle. This comment hints at Innocent Zero's evaluation of the situation, perhaps underestimating Walberg's strategy or the capabilities of his allies. Walberg, however, remains undeterred by Innocent Zero's remark. He advises Innocent Zero to pay attention to his own circumstances instead, showing confidence in his plans and in those fighting alongside him. Subsequently, both Innocent Zero and Walberg teleport to a location high in the sky. Walberg explains that this elevated setting will allow them to engage in battle without any risk of disturbance. Meanwhile, on the ground, Dot expresses his concern about the seemingly insurmountable enemy forces. His worry reflects the daunting nature of their situation. Lance, however, provides reassurance, encouraging Dot to keep defending and expressing confidence that additional support will arrive. Lance's optimism and leadership qualities shine through in this moment of uncertainty. At that crucial moment, a large tower materializes, adding a dramatic twist to the battle. Hovering above the tower is an even larger, menacing spiked ball. They notice Selwar atop the tower, his arms raised toward the spiked ball. This posture suggests his control or influence over this formidable structure. The emergence of Selwar in such a commanding position signifies a significant escalation in the battle, introducing a new and potentially game-changing factor into the already intense conflict. Margaret watches the chaos unfold, noticing that the creatures specifically avoid attacking Mash, who stands still, isolated from the action. Her observation leads her to theorize that there is a specific method to break Mash's inaction. When Dot questions her knowledge, Margaret confidently attributes her insight to her woman's intuition, a blend of instinct and observation. Seizing a moment of potential strategy, Dot shouts to Mash, suggesting he focus on Cell, the apparent controller of the tower and the spiked ball. This would allow the others to concentrate on battling the horde of creatures. Mash, hearing Dot's suggestion, springs into action, heading towards the tower. Dot, however, quickly realizes the potential risks of Mash's approach. He internally voices his concern that climbing the tower would consume too much time and expose Mash to attacks. His strategic mind is always at work, assessing and planning even in the heat of battle. Mash, upon reaching the base of the tower, surprises everyone with his approach. Rather than climbing, he delivers powerful kicks to the structure, breaking off large chunks. His continued assault significantly reduces the tower's size, leaving only a small section where Cell stands. Cell lands safely from the now destroyed tower and begins to address Mash. He starts with a formal acknowledgement of their past encounter, but before he can finish, Mash interrupts him. Mash's interruption is somewhat awkward as he recalls a mundane, almost trivial memory of them sitting next to each other during an entrance ceremony. During the fight with the creatures, Dot notices a baby in the middle of the battlefield. He is curious and looks at the baby. Suddenly, the baby speaks a word, "babies," and Dot instantly turns into a baby. The baby starts to laugh and changes his form, revealing himself as Sitter Baby, one of the dangerous members of the criminal Canes, led by Innocent Zero. Now a baby, Dot tries to use his magic powers, but he finds that he can't. He feels scared and helpless in this new form. He starts to look for his friend Lance for help. When Dot finds Lance and tries to talk to him, Lance doesn't understand. He only hears baby noises. Right then, Sitter Baby tries to use his magic spell, Babies, again, this time targeting Lance. But Lance acts fast. He grabs Baby Dot and moves quickly to avoid the spell. Lance now has to fight the creatures while also taking care of Baby Dot. Lance, facing the onslaught of 4 creatures, successfully uses his gravity magic to halt their attack. He quickly understands the challenge ahead. He must fend off these creatures while also ensuring Dot's safety. However, the situation becomes more complicated when Dot, who has been transformed into a baby, sees a baby rattle on the ground and begins to crawl towards it. Lance notices and tries to reach Dot to ensure his safety. But before he can get there, the same magic that transformed Dot affects Lance, turning him into a baby as well. Now, both Lance and Dot, unable to speak, find themselves in a very vulnerable position. A creature lunges at them, but they manage to narrowly escape the attack. At this critical moment, they see another baby rattle nearby. Realizing this could be a chance to improve their situation, the 2 babies, despite their limited abilities, crawl towards the new rattle, trying to survive and navigate the dangers around them. In their baby forms, Dot and Lance each have their own thoughts. Dot humorously acknowledges his inability to resist the allure of a toy due to his baby instincts, while Lance mentally notes the need for greater self-control, even as a baby. Sitter Baby, observing the duo, confidently declares that their defeat was inevitable from the moment he cast his spell. He explains that in their baby forms, their magical power is significantly reduced, limited to only 10% of their normal capacity. Sitter Baby relishes the situation, expressing his enjoyment of a one-sided battle against the powerless. As Sitter Baby commands the creatures to attack the helpless duo, Lance, still possessing some magical ability, casts Sectional Graviole. This powerful spell unexpectedly crushes Sitter Baby into the ground, turning the tables in their favor despite their diminished state. Confounded, Sitter Baby wonders aloud how Lance, even in his baby form, is still capable of using his magic. Dot, in his thoughts, reasons that even with his power restricted, Lance was able to compensate for the loss by concentrating all his magic to a single point. He muses that despite facing an opponent with a formidable spell, Lance's skills are undeniably impressive, justifying his status as the top student of the year. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Caldo reflects on the rarity of encountering magic users whose abilities surpass the expectations of their age. He acknowledges that such exceptional talent is characteristic of those from Easton. In the meantime, Cell War, engaged with Mash, tries to grab his attention with a challenging remark. Mash, after a brief pause, sheepishly admits his forgetfulness, apologizing to Cell War. As Ryo Grants and Neri Sean soar through the sky on their brooms, Neri inquires about the connection between Innocent Zero and Walberg. Ryo delves into a brief history lesson, explaining that their current society owes its structure to a single influential magic user named Adam Jobs. Jobs, renowned for his dark magic, was unparalleled in power and is credited with establishing the concept of the Divine Visionary. Ryo further reveals that both Innocent Zero and Walberg were Adam Jobs' most formidable students. This revelation prompts Neri to question whether Walberg and Innocent Zero are equals in terms of their magical abilities. Ryo confirms this, implying that their power levels are indeed comparable. However, he speculates that Innocent Zero must possess some kind of trump card or hidden advantage, especially given his bold move of launching a direct assault. Innocent Zero, confronting Walberg in their high-altitude duel, questions Walberg with a hint of emotion, asking if Walberg is as pleased to see him as he is to see Walberg. He then dramatically removes his hood, revealing a face that is eerily featureless, a sight that visibly shocks Walberg. Following this, Innocent Zero places his hand on his own face, initiating a transformation. He poses a poignant question to Walberg, inquiring if he would still consider him a friend if he looked different. As he speaks, Innocent Zero morphs into his former self, a transformation that signifies a deep change. Walberg, witnessing this, remarks that Innocent Zero has forsaken his humanity. However, Innocent Zero refutes this, asserting that he embodies humanity more than anyone. He reveals his deep-seated desires, which are quintessentially human, and unbounded greed. Innocent Zero declares his intentions for the day, to take Mash Burnedead back and to end Walberg's life. Then, in a chilling turn of events, Innocent Zero casts Times, the Living Dead, a spell that Walberg immediately recognizes as forbidden. Cell, somewhat taken aback, questions Mash about his apparent forgetfulness. Mash, however, remains silent in response, perceiving Cell merely as a talking cream puff in his mind. Unfazed, Cell expresses his intent to eliminate Mash and launches an attack. Mash, with his quick reflexes, successfully dodges the assault. Cell then taunts Mash, mentioning that he's aware of the survival of Mash's friend, whom he describes as resilient as a roach. He chillingly vows that after dealing with Mash, he will ensure to finish off his friend. With this ominous declaration, Cell unleashes Carpaccio, a potent spell, directing it towards Mash. Meanwhile, Dot is engaged in his own battle, struggling against the relentless creatures. Amidst the chaos, he finds a moment to think about Mash, concerned for his well-being, especially given the intensity of Cell's attacks. Dot's thoughts reveal his concern and camaraderie, hoping for Mash's safety in the face of danger. Dot recalls their previous encounter with Cell, where Mash cleverly concealed himself in Abel's doll to get close to their adversary. However, this time, Mash is facing Cell without any such subterfuge, confronting him directly and alone. Mash astonishingly runs right across Cell's magic, catching Cell completely off guard. As Mash closes in, he delivers a powerful punch directly to Cell's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Cell, now on the ground, reflects on their last fight, remembering how Mash had struggled to keep pace with his attacks. He finds himself bewildered by Mash's improved capabilities, wondering how Mash can now match him in combat. Mash, standing over Cell, finally recognizes him as the Thorny One from their past encounter. He remarks that, having already witnessed Cell's tactics once before, they no longer have the element of surprise or effectiveness they once did. Adam Jobs was renowned for his exceptional magical prowess, surpassing any seen in centuries. His influence was profound, shaping various aspects of the world, including Magi education and the establishment of the Bureau of Magic. In his later years, Adam dedicated himself to aiding those without magical abilities, embodying the principle of noblesse oblige, the responsibility of the strong to help the weak. He instilled this noble ideal in his 3 pupils, leaving a lasting legacy. In a shocking turn of events, Innocent Zero opens a summoned coffin to reveal Adam Jobs standing upright inside. This sight stuns Walberg, who is visibly shaken at the unexpected revelation. Innocent Zero then reveals his acquisition of a potent magic capable of restoring life from a mere fragment of flesh. He clarifies, however, that this resurrection magic only revives the body in its former state, unable to restore the individual's mind. At this juncture, Necrosmance makes his appearance, emerging behind the reanimated Adam. He declares that he will take control, stating that manipulating marionettes is his expertise. Necrosmance assures that his control over Adam will be so seamless that no one will notice any difference. Walberg, facing the daunting prospect of battling the resurrected Adam Jobs, questions Innocent Zero about the extent of his ambitions. Innocent Zero, with a sense of triumph, explains that their master, Adam, lived a long life but ultimately succumbed to old age. However, now restored to his prime, Adam's magical prowess remains unparalleled. Innocent Zero then taunts Walberg, asking if he is pleased to be reunited with his former mentor, and without waiting for a response, he launches an attack. The narrative shifts to a time when Adam was still alive and Walberg was much younger. Walberg, questioning the concept of noblesse oblige, expresses skepticism about its real value, suggesting it might be an excuse used by those who seek protection without contributing any effort. Adam acknowledges Walberg's point, provocatively asking what purpose there is in selflessly aiding others before playfully chastising him for daring to debate with his master. Walberg clarifies that he has no intention of usurpation, to which Adam responds in a light-hearted manner, assuring Walberg that his inability to fully grasp the concept is acceptable given his youth. Adam expresses confidence that Walberg, due to his strength, will eventually understand the deeper meaning of noblesse oblige. Walberg successfully deflects Innocent Zero's assault, affirming his admiration for Adam as the greatest man he ever knew. Yet he emphasizes the importance of living in the present. Walberg declares that he won't hold back, resolved to demonstrate his strength and surpass his master. Meanwhile, Mash, seeking understanding, questions Cell about why he is being targeted. Cell enlightens Mash about the forbidden magic of body construction, a dark art used to craft an immortal heart from the hearts of 6 blood relatives. He reveals a chilling scheme by Innocent Zero, who orchestrated the upbringing of 6 children, including Mash, as vessels for this purpose. According to Cell, Mash is a creation of Innocent Zero, intended to serve as a component in forming Innocent Zero's perfect body. Cell informs Mash that he should feel fortunate for being part of a creation that will become godlike. Mash, trying to understand, likens himself to protein needed for building muscles. Cell doesn't reply to Mash's analogy. After some thought, Mash expresses how overwhelming this revelation is, comparing it to a bombshell that has completely altered his understanding of his life. Seeking escape from this reality, he covers himself with a blanket and attempts to sleep, but Cell insists that he get up. Mash, still grappling with the situation, wonders if this means he and Cell are siblings. Cell clarifies his own origin, explaining that he is merely a clone, created when their father, Innocent Zero, used his blood on a corpse. He emphasizes his existence is solely for the fulfillment of Innocent Zero's ambitions. Cell expresses that it is a significant honor to be part of Innocent Zero's body, but he is frustrated that Mash was chosen instead of him. He starts to demean Mash's life, saying it was worthless, but now has some purpose. However, before Cell can finish his statement, Mash abruptly punches him in the face, knocking him down. Mash boldly declares that the meaning of his life doesn't concern him, and he remains confident in his strength, challenging Cell to give his best. Cell, internally acknowledging Mash's provocation, is surprised by his own bleeding, a testament to Mash's power. As he stands back up, another magic mark surfaces on his face, signaling an increase in his power. Cell then prepares to escalate the confrontation, invoking Summon Hephaestus, God of Iron, a spell that suggests a formidable magical display is about to unfold. Cell, having summoned Hephaestus, informs Mash that he has unlocked the full power of his wand. He explains that magic's potential varies greatly depending on its user and their method of wielding it. Following this explanation, Cell unleashes Diamond Cutter, a spell that sends 2 discs with diamond-edged blades hurtling towards Mash. These discs are designed to slice through anything in their path. Mash, reacting swiftly, manages to evade the attack with a jump, narrowly escaping harm. He acknowledges the close call. However, the discs don't stop. They continue their trajectory, slicing into the walls behind him. This causes damage to the school, prompting Mash to react with dismay, lamenting the destruction caused to his school. Cell then elaborates on the nature of his attack. He explains that the diamond-coated blades of the discs make them virtually unstoppable, capable of cutting through any material. He adds ominously that the discs will relentlessly pursue their target until they have completely shredded it. As the diamond-edged discs circle back towards Mash, one of them narrowly grazes his cheek, leaving a small cut. The blades relentlessly continue their pursuit, repeatedly targeting Mash. Despite the imminent danger, he skillfully dodges each attack, demonstrating his agility and quick thinking. Realizing the persistent threat of the discs, Mash decides to shift his focus away from them and directly engage Cell. But as he moves to confront Cell, one of the discs unexpectedly reappears, slicing through his shirt. Mash quickly pulls back, narrowly avoiding a more severe injury. The discs launch another coordinated attack, but Mash skillfully maneuvers himself, tucking in between the spinning blades, thus evading being cut. During this intense exchange, Mash observes that Cell is strategically controlling 2 of the 4 discs, using them as a defensive barrier to prevent Mash from getting too close to him. Mash, realizing the daunting challenge posed by the 4 diamond-edged discs, comments on the difficulty of the situation. Cell, seizing the opportunity to intimidate Mash further, warns him against attempting to escape, hinting at the potential harm to everyone present if Mash chooses to flee. Then, Cell escalates the situation dramatically by casting Black Diamond, which conjures 1,000 diamond shards suspended ominously above them. Cell explains the amplified power of a wand when combined with a summoning spell. Not only does the wand's power increase, but also the level of magic that can be unleashed becomes extraordinarily potent. He then describes the destructive capability of the spell, suggesting that the diamond shards could impale everyone within the Colosseum. With this dire situation unfolding, Cell urges Mash to surrender, presenting the spell as an overwhelming force that leaves little room for resistance. Cell, taking advantage of the situation, launches 2 of the discs at Mash. In response, Mash suddenly turns and runs in the opposite direction, which leaves Cell perplexed. Cell wonders if Mash is fleeing from the battle or abandoning the students, unable to comprehend Mash's strategy. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Mash reappears behind Cell, having swiftly circled the school to evade the discs. This feat surprises Cell, who thought such a move was impossible. Seizing the moment, Cell reveals another aspect of his power. He transforms his skin into diamond, boasting that it's impervious to any attack. As he declares his invincibility, one of the discs stealthily approaches Mash from behind. The disc strikes Mash, catching him off guard, and causes him to fall to the floor. Cell places his foot on Mash's head, believing he has the upper hand and taunting him. However, to his surprise, he looks down to see not Mash's head, but a cream puff in its place. Suddenly Mash stands up, repeating the phrase, "cream puff party," while forcefully pushing the cream puff into Cell's mouth. In a quick maneuver, Mash gets Cell in a chokehold, and Cell starts to foam at the mouth. This unexpected turn is then clarified. Cell is experiencing hypoxia, a condition where the brain doesn't receive enough oxygen. This lack of oxygen can lead to hallucinations, explaining Cell's distorted perception of reality where he sees Mash's head as a cream puff. Just before the disc could strike him, Mash quickly assessed that countering the attack with his fist would be too challenging, so he opted for a different strategy, to incapacitate Cell using a chokehold. Employing the formidable strength of his biceps, Mash skillfully applied pressure to Cell's carotid artery, effectively cutting off the oxygen supply. This precise and powerful move rendered Cell unconscious in less than a second. As Cell is incapacitated, his spell Black Diamond loses its potency and shatters, signaling the end of its threat. Mash, standing firm, declares his deep care for the school and his readiness to fiercely defend it. He sends a clear message that any attempt to destroy the school will be met with his resolute resistance. Necros Mance, in his contemplation, acknowledges Walberg's past achievements as a former divine visionary who brought peace to the realm. He recognizes Walberg's continued status as the world's strongest magic user, but he dismissively refers to it as a position only valid in the current superficial world. With this mindset, Necros, manipulating Adam Jobs' body, launches Dark Impact, a powerful spell. However, Walberg skillfully evades the attack, with the spell narrowly missing him. Necros then employs Dark Snake, creating a serpent composed of darkness that lunges towards Walberg. Walberg manages to dodge most of the attack, but a portion of his robe is destroyed in the process. Necros muses to himself about the terrifying capability of Adam's dark magic, which can annihilate anything it touches, including other magic, into the void. Savoring the power at his disposal, Necros remarks on the enjoyment he derives from controlling Adam, whom he considers the best among all he has manipulated. He decides to continue exploiting Adam's abilities, casting Dark Snake Double to send 2 dark serpents hurtling towards Walberg. However, Walberg counters with a brilliant display of his own power. Light emits from his wand, obliterating the dark snakes. The diamonds encircling Walberg's wand then mobilize, zooming towards Necros. They narrowly miss him, but the close encounter results in the disappearance of Necros's left arm, lower legs, and the left side of his face. Walberg reveals that his magic has the ability to control space, which he used to displace parts of Necros's body to a nearby location. Necros, realizing that Walberg's ability to manipulate space allowed him to remove the dark magic, decides to escalate his attack. He casts Dark Impact Absol, confident that its intensity will be too much for Walberg to handle quickly. However, Walberg, with the vast range of his magic, effortlessly neutralizes the spell. Necros then reflects on the fact that he is controlling Adam Jobs, a figure who once dominated the world with his power. He finds it hard to believe that there could be such a significant gap in skill between Adam and Walberg, considering dark magic's supreme status. Determined to prove this, Necros unleashes Dark Tremendos, a formidable spell that sends a massive sphere of darkness hurtling towards Walberg. Proclaiming Dark Tremendos as a pinnacle of dark magic, Necros is confident it will overpower anything Walberg can counter with. Walberg, however, responds with a laugh, revealing that his previous actions were merely the capabilities of his wand. He then prepares to cast his own spell, telling Necros to watch and learn. Walberg invokes Space Sacrifice, resulting in the appearance of a diamond in the sky that effectively dispels the dark magic. Witnessing this display of power, Innocent Zero acknowledges Walberg's undiminished prowess, remarking that Walberg has not lost any of his formidable strength over time. Following Necrosmance's departure, Innocent Zero immediately casts Time's Cold, but Walberg quickly counters by removing himself from the space, reappearing behind Innocent Zero. He then uses Space's Bout, eliminating all the space in front of him in an aggressive move. However, Innocent Zero manages to evade the attack, leaving Walberg perplexed by his agility. In a swift response, Innocent Zero employs Time's Rewound, targeting Walberg's left arm. The spell's effect is devastating, causing Walberg's arm and the left side of his face to wither. Innocent Zero menacingly warns that Walberg's legs will be next. Walberg, enduring the pain, realizes that Innocent Zero is skillfully exploiting the openings in his attacks. He marvels at the extent of Innocent Zero's power growth, referring to him as a monster. Undeterred, Walberg casts Space's Bout once more, this time aiming to remove the space encompassing their entire vicinity. He pushes himself, continuing to cut out space, recognizing that his efforts still might not be enough. Despite Walberg's intense offensive, Innocent Zero remains unharmed and dismisses the attack as insufficient to defeat him. Innocent Zero then casts Time's Rewound again, further debilitating Walberg. He declares to Walberg that any resistance is futile, as the gap in their strength has grown too vast. Innocent Zero expounds on the fundamental difference between himself and Walberg. He admits that he always places his own ambitions and self-interest above all else, willing to make any sacrifice necessary to achieve his goals. In contrast, he observes that Walberg is selfless, consistently prioritizing the welfare of others over his own desires. Innocent Zero asserts that this lack of ego, this selflessness, is a weakness. He believes that Walberg's inclination to care for others has been his downfall. As he speaks, Innocent Zero raises his wand, pointing it directly at Walberg, indicating a critical moment in their confrontation. Walberg, in this tense situation, reflects on his past. He remembers his beginnings as someone born with a weak body, someone who didn't excel academically and was timid by nature. His lack of confidence led him to feel out of place in school, resulting in his frequent absences. Fearful of rejection, Walberg chose to isolate himself, preemptively rejecting others before they had the chance to reject him. He saw the world through a lens of pessimism, finding it dull and uninspiring. It was in this state of mind that he encountered his master. Adam consistently visited Walberg, each time uninvited, and shared a new animal fact, encouraging him to attend school. Despite Walberg's repeated rejections, Adam persistently made efforts to connect with him. Adam's unwavering attempts to involve himself in Walberg's life led Walberg to eventually question why Adam kept coming back. Adam's simple response, implying a personal inability to leave Walberg alone, deeply resonated with Walberg, pulling him out of his self-imposed isolation. In the present, facing Innocent Zero, Walberg acknowledges his adversary's choice to live for himself. He contrasts this with his own life, emphasizing that he owes his existence to the kindness of others. This sense of indebtedness and gratitude fuels Walberg's commitment to aiding those who are weaker. Prepared to sacrifice himself, Walberg begins to release an immense amount of magical energy. Innocent Zero, observing Walberg's actions, recognizes the rarity of the power being displayed. He notes that even among the most powerful three-liner magic users, few possess the ability to access what he refers to as the epitome of magic. Walberg then casts a formidable spell, Space's Thirds, Uranus Inclination. Upon witnessing Walberg cast a third spell, Innocent Zero acknowledges the immense power of such a spell, explaining that it taps into the divine force residing within a wand. Walberg adds that his specific spell, Uranus Inclination, channels the magic of Uranus, the god of sky, which has the power to erase everything within a certain space. Emphasizing his dedication as the headmaster, he hints at his willingness to go to great lengths to protect the school. As the orb of Uranus Inclination begins to rotate, signaling the imminent release of its power, Innocent Zero quickly counters with Time's Unmove. He asserts that no attack can touch someone who can manipulate time. Following this declaration, he launches a barrage of black kunai at Walberg, confidently stating that Walberg won't recover from his injuries. However, Walberg's magic remains active despite the onslaught, puzzling Innocent Zero. Walberg then explains the nature of third spells. They unlock a wand's true power, which can be sustained by infusing it with the caster's own magical energy. He reveals that if enough personal magic is poured into the wand, the spell will continue to function, even if the caster were to die. Walberg reveals that he has been conserving his magical power for this critical juncture, declaring his intention to use his third spell to destroy Innocent Zero, even if it costs him his life. Innocent Zero, realizing the depth of Walberg's strategy, acknowledges that Walberg had been planning this from the very start of their confrontation. In a moment of introspection, Walberg reflects on his role and responsibilities. He envisions his students, which strengthens his resolve. He contemplates the potential for the world to become a better place for those who are vulnerable and powerless, much like he once was. Embracing this vision, he decides that he must lead his students by example, just as his master did for him. Walberg is determined to demonstrate his commitment through his actions, not just his words. With this resolve, Walberg activates his third spell. Innocent Zero, demonstrating his mastery over time, reverses its flow to avoid the effects of Walberg's spell. Re-emerging in the battle, he quickly resumes his offensive, launching more kunai at Walberg. He then seizes Walberg by the hair, positioning himself to deliver a fatal blow. While doing so, Innocent Zero acknowledges Walberg's strength, but asserts that he will never surpass him. During this dire moment, Walberg contemplates his life and the ideals he has strived for. He ponders whether his vision for a better world is too fragile, easily shattered by narrow-minded, selfish beliefs like those of Innocent Zero. Innocent Zero, poised to end Walberg's life, bids him farewell. However, just as Innocent Zero is about to act, Mash intervenes. He appears out of nowhere and delivers a powerful knee to Innocent Zero's face, accompanied by a triumphant, "Gotcha!" Walberg, concerned for Mash's safety, urges him to leave, warning that Innocent Zero intends to capture him. Mash, responding with his characteristic sense of duty, implies that he feels compelled to assist Walberg, just as he would help an elderly person crossing the street. This response makes Walberg wonder if Mash only sees him as an old man in need of help. Meanwhile, Innocent Zero traps Walberg within a shroud of dark magic. He reveals his ability to absorb others' magic by continuously reconfiguring his body. He boasts about already possessing Adam's magic and declares that Walberg's magic will be next. As Mash tries to rescue Walberg from the enveloping dark magic, his efforts fall short. Innocent Zero declares it's too late and activates Space's Bout, a powerful spell. Mash, witnessing the unfolding events and realizing the gravity of the situation, simply utters, "Darn." Walberg is taken aback as he realizes Innocent Zero has succeeded in absorbing his magic. He is even more astonished by the sheer volume of Innocent Zero's magic capacity, which he acknowledges is greater than his own. Innocent Zero, reveling in his newfound power, declares his intention to rule the world and sets his sights on Mash as his next target. Walberg, deeply concerned, thinks to himself about the catastrophic consequences if Innocent Zero succeeds in capturing Mash. In a bold move, Mash charges at Innocent Zero, aiming a kick at his head. However, just as Mash's kick is about to land, Innocent Zero surrounds Mash's leg with dark magic. Sensing the imminent danger, Mash quickly retreats, dashing backwards to avoid contact. Innocent Zero, seizing the moment, taunts Mash, suggesting that he must have felt the vast disparity in their powers. He confidently asserts his plan to take Mash back. Magic surrounds Mash, causing subtle changes in his body's shape, which leaves him confused. Walberg explains that Mash's magic power is exceeding what his body can physically contain. Innocent Zero, now visibly strained and breathing heavily, dismisses this condition, emphasizing that he sees Mash as merely a means to an end. He proclaims Mash's sole purpose is to serve as a component that will elevate him to a greater level of existence. Walberg counters Innocent Zero's claim, stating that it's driven by ego. He firmly believes that Mash has the autonomy to choose his own path in life. Aligning with this sentiment, Mash concurs, supporting the notion of his self-determination. In response, Innocent Zero, with a laugh, asserts that a person without magic cannot survive in their world, directing this statement at Walberg, possibly as a reminder of Walberg's own experiences. Innocent Zero swings his Space's magic towards Walberg, who acknowledges that he has very little magic remaining to evade the attack. However, Mash acts swiftly and pulls Walberg out of harm's way in the nick of time. Walberg expresses his gratitude, while Mash comments on the convenience of a world where magic reigns supreme and the most potent magic user holds great influence. He declares his determination to challenge this paradigm by defeating magic with his physical strength, seeking acceptance in a world where magic is paramount. In response to Mash's declaration, Innocent Zero chuckles and claims that he needs time to adapt to his newly acquired body. He hints at a future confrontation, adding the ominous caveat that something else may intervene before they can continue their battle. Suddenly, a colossal creature materializes within the Colosseum, emitting a deafening roar that reverberates through the air. Walberg, recognizing the imminent danger posed by the colossal creature, expresses his concern that it could obliterate the city in an instant. Innocent Zero, now in a taunting tone, recalls Mash's earlier confidence and dares him to confront and stop the creature, casting doubt on the ability of someone without magic to achieve such a feat. As Innocent Zero's spell unravels, the people in the Colosseum regain their freedom of movement. They share a sense of disorientation, as if they had been in a deep slumber. Panic sets in among the spectators as they witness the creature hurling massive rocks in their direction, intensifying the chaos and fear in the Colosseum. Lance, spurred by the thought of his sister in danger, swiftly casts Graviole, halting the impending barrage of rocks before they can reach their targets. With relief in his voice, he acknowledges his sister Anna for always being there when he needs her. Dot, eager to contribute to the battle, launches Explome, but a sudden appearance of a magic nullifying barrier thwarts his spell. Caldo discerns that someone else must be controlling this barrier, which is rendering their magic useless. He emphasizes the necessity of locating and dealing with this mysterious magic user in order to have any chance of defeating the creature. The creature then lifts up its fist and prepares to smash it down onto the Colosseum. However, it is stopped before it can do so. It struggles to move as Mash grabs the end of the chain that surrounds its body. The crowd recognize Mash as he engages in a game of tug-of-war with the creature. They start to question if they should leave this in Mash's hands due to him not having magic. However, after seeing the amount of effort he is putting in to save them, they start to cheer him on. Finn watches Mash closely, surprised by what he sees. Mash has always been an outcast at school, struggling to fit in because he can't use magic in a world where magic is everything. Despite this, Finn can't believe his eyes when he sees Mash defy the odds. With a shout of encouragement, Finn urges Mash to give it his all. Mash, determined to prove himself, reaches high above his head and forcefully brings down the creature onto the floor. Caldo dashes through the dense forest and stumbles upon a troubling scene. A man trapped beneath shifting sands. As he gets closer, he recognizes the man on the ground as the one who had been controlling the giant. The man introduces himself as Orter Madel and expresses his disappointment in Caldo, believing that Caldo has chosen to align with Mash, which he doesn't accept. Caldo, however, retorts that he never claimed to accept Mash either, though he acknowledges that his strength is the real deal. Days pass, and word of Innocent Zero's sudden appearance at Eastern Magic Academy becomes a global sensation. The official story circulated claims that the divine visionaries were responsible for driving him away, though skepticism abounds. In response, the Bureau of Magic intensifies its efforts to bolster security and prevent information leaks to the outside world. Amidst all this, Mash, the central figure in the incident, remains the sole keeper of the truth. On the beach, Mash, Dot, Lance, and Finn gather, sharing a unique experience of being at the beach with friends for the first time. Finn raises concerns about their presence there, given recent events. However, both Dot and Mash express a different sentiment, believing that moments like these call for smashing melons. Dot hands Mash a slaughter melon, which suddenly latches its tentacles around Mash's head, threatening to drain his blood. In a swift move, Mash slams his head into the ground, shattering the menacing fruit and emerging unscathed. Finn, still grappling with the revelation, expresses disbelief that Mash is Innocent Zero's child. Lance chimes in, voicing concerns about Mash's precarious situation, speculating that somehow they might try to pin the blame on him. Lemon, however, passionately defends Mash, asserting that none of the chaos is his fault, and that it runs counter to the peace Mash desires. Walberg, unexpectedly joining the conversation, adds that this will be Mash's most significant trial yet. Surprised by Walberg's presence, they inquire about why he's there. Walberg casually responds that he's there because it's summertime, leaving them somewhat baffled by his nonchalant response. Walberg continues, addressing the group solemnly. As you all know, he begins, Mash Burnedead will never find peace until we manage to defeat Innocent Zero. He goes on to explain that Innocent Zero wields times, the most potent of all personal magics, alongside Walberg's own space's magic. Walberg adds that the sinister figure resorts to forbidden magic to amplify his power. He concludes by emphasizing that calling Innocent Zero the most powerful magic user in history is no exaggeration, underscoring the gravity of their task. He tells them that he is also guarded by Mash's 5 siblings, who are each equal to or stronger than Walberg. He says that he is certain that it will be the end of the world unless they stop them. He says that, under normal circumstances, their chances of winning would be nearly 0. However, Mash increased those odds. Lemon says that they can't put Mash up against the strongest magic user in the world. Mash remains resolute, reassuring his friends that he's willing to take on the challenge. He explains that he sees it as a binary outcome. Either he wins or loses, giving him a 50% chance. He boldly asserts that with his unbeaten muscles, his odds increase to 100%. Walberg then thinks to himself that Mash also has boundless optimism and desire to help the weak, and says that he is counting on him. Mash says to leave it to him, as he will bring peace to the world and graduate together with everyone. Lance then says that the end of semester test is soon and asks what Mash will do, as he is one failing grade away from expulsion, which causes Mash to say, uh-oh. Mash's new challenges is the end of semester test. Lemon shows him the outcomes of the earlier tests, designed to assess his current intellectual abilities. The results indicate that Mash had failed in magical languages, magical history, magical potions, and magical mathematics. This revelation plunges Mash into deep depression, rendering him unable to speak. He trembles uncontrollably, as if his mind is on the verge of overload. Lance steps in to explain that while Mash excelled in physical tests, he faced significant difficulties with the written ones, as Mash continues to tremble. Finn notices Mash's emotional breakdown and his growing aversion to studying. Mash expresses a strong desire to go back home, reflecting his deep reluctance. However, Dot steps in to uplift Mash's spirits, assuring him of their support with a cheerful smile. Curious about Dot's academic abilities, Mash asks if he is good at studying, to which Dot confidently affirms. Mash seems greatly surprised by this response. Dot goes on to explain that studying is one of the simplest paths to progress towards one's goals, likening it to daily training for challenging tasks. He emphasizes the importance of maintaining a good record and not wanting to regret their youth. Dot's explanation amplifies Mash's anxiety, causing him to scream out in fear, revealing the immense pressure he feels about his academic performance. Mash opens up about his feelings of isolation due to his perceived lack of intelligence. Dot offers reassurance, telling him not to worry and agreeing to teach him. Mash pleads with desperation in his eyes, begging Dot to be his tutor. Dot smiles warmly at Mash's request. In the following scene, Dot and Lance shift their focus to mathematics. They decide to begin with the fundamentals, skipping practical applications and heading straight to the essential points for the upcoming test. Their goal is to make sure Mash memorizes the formulas and knows how to apply them. As they explain, Mash sits there, staring blankly. They move on to magical history, and as they progress to magical linguistics, Mash gradually becomes overwhelmed by the information being presented to him. As Lance continues teaching, Mash's condition worsens. He starts vomiting and soon breaks into tears, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information bombarding his brain. In the end, the stress becomes too much for Mash, and his mind appears to snap. Dot and Lemon express concern and ask if Mash is okay, but it's clear that he's not in his right senses. Mash declares that he can't do it and despairs over his abilities. Dot scolds him, and Lance takes a stern tone, stating that Mash either completes the task or faces removal from the situation. In the next scene, Mash begins writing, and after a few hours, he looks up to find his friends all focused on him, watching his progress. Feeling the pressure, Mash closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. Suddenly, he startles everyone by jumping out of the window. Lance suggests letting Mash be, acknowledging that it's his choice to run away from the first challenge, whatever the consequences may be. Lance makes it clear that he doesn't want to waste his time teaching someone who doesn't seem willing to learn. Finn, in response, remains silent, but decides to search for Mash. While Lance is occupied elsewhere, Finn ventures into the forest, wondering where Mash might be. Suddenly, he notices something unusual and discovers that Mash has buried himself in the ground. Mash comments on Mash's action, and Finn calls out to him, startling him. Apologizing, Mash explains that studying feels too challenging for him. Finn, however, points out that this isn't the Mash he knows. He reminds Mash of his courage in facing seemingly impossible opponents and expresses his desire to graduate alongside that Mash. Finn asks Mash to give it another try. After a moment of contemplation, Mash thanks Finn and emerges from the ground, determined to do his absolute best. Upon returning to the room, Mash apologizes to Dot and asks to be taught again. Dot playfully teases him, but Lance and Lemon immediately accept Mash's apology and resume their studies, ignoring Dot's antics. Recognizing his earlier mistake, Dot eventually apologizes. Despite Mash's improved dedication to his studies, the day of their exam arrives. They wish each other good luck, but as Mash begins answering the questions, he gradually becomes overwhelmed. Before long, the exam is over, leaving Mash sweaty and silent. In the next scene, the distribution of the exam results takes place. Their teacher calls Mash's name, and he approaches nervously. However, to everyone's surprise, it is announced that Mash has done nothing but rebel against the school's educational system. Mash explains that he didn't mean to rebel against the school's educational system. The teacher further adds that his grades have always been low, so it's assumed that Mash wouldn't succeed there. However, it turns out that Mash is capable of putting in effort, although she wouldn't go so far as to call his scores praiseworthy. When Mash's scores are revealed, it's evident that he's come very close to failing. In response, Mash simply remarks that it was easy. His friends become annoyed with him, feeling frustrated because they put in so much effort to teach him for the exam. It's explained that, because of the memories of his friends, Mash is reminded of an important lesson, that with the help of others, one can move forward in life. Alright, so this has been the Divine Visionary Selection Exam arc fully explained. I really hope you liked this video, because if I'm honest, then I didn't plan on releasing this video, but I later thought, why not, and just posted it. However, I'm not sure if there will be any more Mashle videos to come, unfortunately, but you never know. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, then be sure to leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe to the channel anyway. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye.